that could be. Theft from the company? Something from her private life? Something sexual? Thought. Christian said that none of Jack's PAs would talk. Perhaps it's the same story with them. That's why he wanted to fuck me too. Bile rises in my throat with revulsion at the thought. Elizabeth heads away from downtown Seattle and up into the hills to the east. Before long, we're driving through residential streets. I catch sight of one of the street signs, South Irving Street. She takes a sharp left onto a deserted street with a dilapidated children's playground on one side and a large concrete parking lot flanked by a row of squat, empty brick buildings on the other. Elizabeth pulls into the parking lot and stops outside the last of the brick units. She turns to me. "Showtime," she murmurs. My scalp prickles as fear and adrenaline course through my body. "You don't have to do this," I whisper back. Her mouth flattens into a grim line, and she climbs out of the car. "This is for Mia. This is for Mia." I quickly pray. Please let her be okay. Please let her be okay. "Get out," Elizabeth snaps, yanking the rear passenger door open. Shit. As I clamber out, my legs are shaking so hard I wonder if I can stand. The cool late afternoon breeze carries the scent of the coming fall and the chalky, dusty smell of derelict buildings. Well, looky here. Jack emerges from a small, boarded-up doorway on the left of the building. His hair is short. He's removed his earrings and he's wearing a suit. A suit? He ambles toward me, oozing arrogance and hate. My heart rate spikes. "Where's Mia?" I stammer, my mouth so dry I can hardly form the words. "First things first, bitch," Jack sneers, coming to a halt in front of me. I can practically taste his contempt. "The money." Elizabeth is checking the bags in the trunk. "There's a hell of a lot of cash here," she says in awe, zipping and unzipping each bag. "And her cell? In the trash." "Good," Jack snarls, and from nowhere he lashes out, backhanding me hard across the face. The ferocious, unprovoked blow knocks me to the ground, and my head bounces with a sickening thud off the concrete. Pain explodes in my head. My eyes fill with tears, and my vision blurs as the shock of the impact resonates, unleashing agony that pulses through my skull. I scream a silent cry of suffering and shocked terror. "Oh no! Little blip!" Jack follows through with a swift, vicious kick to my ribs, and my breath is blasted from my lungs by the force of the blow. Scrunching my eyes tightly, I try to fight the nausea and pain, to fight for a precious breath. "Little blip! Little blip! Oh, my little blip!" "That's for SIP, you fucking bitch!" Jack screams. I pull my legs up, huddling into a ball and anticipating the next blow. "No! No! No!" "Jack!" Elizabeth screeches. "Not here! Not in broad daylight, for fuck's sake!" He pauses. "The bitch deserves it." He gloats to Elizabeth, and it gives me one precious second to reach around and pull the gun from the waistband of my jeans. Shakily, I aim at him, squeeze the trigger, and fire. The bullet hits him just above the knee, and he collapses in front of me, crying out in agony, clutching his thigh as his fingers redden with blood. "Fuck!" Jack bellows. I turn to face Elizabeth, and she's gaping at me in horror and raising her hands above her head. She blurs. Darkness closes in. Shit. She's at the end of a tunnel. Darkness consuming her, consuming me. From far away, all hell breaks loose. Cars screeching, brakes, doors, shouting, running, footsteps. The gun drops from my hand. "Anna!" Christian's voice. Christian's voice. Christian's agonized voice. "Mia! Save Mia! Anna!" Darkness. Peace. Chapter 23. There is only pain. My head, my chest, burning pain, my side, my arm, pain, pain, and hushed words in the gloom. Where am I? Though I try, I cannot open my eyes. The whispered words become clearer, a beacon in the darkness. Her ribs are bruised, Mr. Gray, and she has a hairline fracture to her skull, but her vital signs are stable and strong. Why is she still unconscious? Mrs. Gray has had a major contusion to her head, but her brain activity is normal, and she has no cerebral swelling. She'll wake when she's ready. Just give her some time. And the baby. The words are anguished, breathless. The baby's fine, Mr. Gray. Oh, thank God. The words are a litany, a prayer. Oh, thank God. Oh my. He's worried about the baby. The baby? Little blip. Of course. My little blip. I try in vain to move my hand to my belly. Nothing moves. Nothing responds. And the baby? Oh, thank God. Little blip is safe. And the baby? Oh, thank God. He cares about the baby. And the baby? Oh, thank God. He wants the baby. Oh, thank God. I relax, and unconsciousness claims me once more, stealing me away from the pain. Everything is heavy and aching. Limbs, head, eyelids. Nothing will move. My eyes and mouth are resolutely shut, unwilling to open, leaving me blind and mute and aching. As I surface from the fog, consciousness hovers, a seductive siren just out of reach. Sounds become voices. I'm not leaving her. Christian, he's here. I will myself to wake. His voice is strained, an agonized whisper. Christian, you should sleep. No, Dad. I want to be here when she wakes up. I'll sit with her. It's the least I can do after she saved my daughter. Mia! How's Mia? She's groggy, scared, and angry. It'll be a few hours before the rohypnol is completely out of her system. Christ. I know. I'm feeling 7 kinds of foolish for relenting on her security. You warned me, but Mia is so stubborn. If it wasn't for Anna here, we all thought Hyde was out of the picture. And my crazy, stupid wife. Why didn't she tell me? Christian's voice is full of anguish. Christian, calm down. Anna's a remarkable young woman. She was incredibly brave. Brave and headstrong and stubborn and stupid. His voice cracks. Hey, Eric murmurs. Don't be so hard on her or yourself, son. I'd better get back to your mom. It's after 3 in the morning, Christian. You really should try to sleep. The fog closes in. The fog lifts, but I have no sense of time. If you don't take her across your knee, I sure as hell will. What the hell was she thinking? Trust me, Ray. I might just do that. Dad, he's here. I fight the fog. Fight. But I spiral down once more into oblivion. No. Detective, as you can see, my wife is in no state to answer any of your questions. Christian is angry. She's a headstrong young woman, Mr. Gray. I wish she'd killed the fucker. That would have meant more paperwork for me, Mr. Gray. Miss Morgan is singing like the proverbial canary. Hyde's a real twisted son of a bitch. He has a serious grudge against your father and you. The fog surrounds me once more, and I'm dragged down. No! What do you mean you weren't talking? It's Grace. She sounds angry. I try to move my head, but I'm met with a resounding, listless silence from my body. What did you do? Mom. Christian, what did you do? I was so angry. It's almost a sob. No. Hey. The world dips and blurs, and I'm gone. I hear soft, garbled voices. You told me you'd cut all ties. Grace is talking. Her voice is quiet, admonishing. I know. Christian sounds resigned, but seeing her finally put it all in perspective for me. You know, with the child, for the first time I felt what we did. It was wrong. What she did, darling. Children will do that to you, make you look at the world in a different light. She finally got the message, and so did I. I hurt Anna. He whispers, we always hurt the ones we love, darling. You'll have to tell her you're sorry, and mean it, and give her time. She said she was leaving me. No, no, no. Did you believe her? At first, yes. Darling, you always believe the worst of everyone, including yourself. You always have. Anna loves you very much, and it's obvious you love her. She was mad at me. I'm sure she was. I'm pretty mad at you right now. I think you can only be truly mad at someone you really love. I thought about it, and she's shown me over and over how much she loves me, to the point of putting her own life in danger. Yes, she has, darling. Oh, Mom, why won't she wake up? His voice cracks. I nearly lost her. Christian, there are muffled sobs. No. Oh, the darkness closes in. No. It's taken 24 years for you to let me hold you like this. I know, Mom. I'm glad we talked. Me too, darling. I'm always here. I can't believe I'm going to be a grandmother. Grandma! Sweet oblivion beckons. His stubble softly scrapes the back of my hand as he squeezes my fingers. Oh, baby, please come back to me. I'm sorry. Sorry for everything. Just wake up. I miss you. I love you. I try. I want to see him, but my body disobeys me, and I fall asleep once more. I have a pressing need to pee.
Really?
I open my eyes. I'm in the clean, sterile environment of a hospital room. It's dark except for a side light, and all is quiet. My head and my chest ache, but more than that, my bladder is bursting. I need to pee. I test my limbs. My right arm smarts, and I notice the IV attached to it on the inside of my elbow. I shut my eyes quickly. Turning my head, I'm pleased that it responds to my will. I open my eyes again. Christian is asleep, sitting beside me and leaning on my bed, with his head on his folded arms. I reach out, grateful once more that my body responds, and run my fingers through his soft hair. He startles awake, raising his head so suddenly that my hand falls weakly back onto the bed. Hi, I croak. Oh, Anna. His voice is choked and relieved. He grasps my hand, squeezing it tightly and holding it up against his rough, stubbled cheek. I need to use the bathroom, I whisper. He gapes, then frowns at me for a moment. Okay. I struggle to sit up. Anna, stay still. I'll call a nurse. He quickly stands, alarmed, and reaches for a buzzer on the bedside. Please, I whisper. Why do I ache everywhere? I need to get up. Jeez, I feel so weak. Will you do as you're told for once? He snaps, exasperated. I really need to pee, I rasp. My throat and mouth are so dry. A nurse bustles into the room. She must be in her 50s, though her hair is jet black. She wears overlarge pearl earrings. Mrs. Gray, welcome back. I'll let Dr. Bartley know you're awake. She makes her way to my bedside. My name is Nora. Do you know where you are? Yes. Hospital. I need to pee. You have a catheter. What? Oh, this is gross. I glance anxiously at Christian, then back to the nurse. Please, I want to get up. Mrs. Gray? Please. Anna? Christian warns. I struggle to sit up once more. Let me remove your catheter. Mr. Gray, I am sure Mrs. Gray would like some privacy. She looks pointedly at Christian, dismissing him. I'm not going anywhere. He glares back at her. Christian, please, I whisper, reaching out and grasping his hand. Briefly, he squeezes my hand and gives me an exasperated look. Please, I beg. Fine, he snaps and runs his hand through his hair. You have 2 minutes, he hisses at the nurse, and he leans down and kisses my forehead before turning on his heel and leaving the room. Christian bursts back into the room 2 minutes later as Nurse Nora is helping me out of bed. I'm dressed in a thin hospital gown. I don't remember being stripped. Let me take her, he says and strides toward us. Mr. Gray, I can manage. Nurse Nora scolds him. He gives her a hostile glare. Damn it, she's my wife. I'll take her, he says through gritted teeth as he moves the IV stand out of his way. Mr. Gray, she protests. He ignores her, leans down, and gently lifts me off the bed. I wrap my arms around his neck, my body complaining. Jeez, I ache everywhere. He carries me to the ensuite bathroom while Nurse Nora follows us, pushing the IV stand. Mrs. Gray, you're too light, he mutters disapprovingly as he sets me gently on my feet. I sway. My legs feel like jello. Christian flips the light switch and I'm momentarily blinded by the fluorescent lamp that pings and flickers to life. Sit before you fall, he snaps, still holding me. Tentatively, I sit down on the toilet. Go! I try to wave him out. No, just pee, Anna. Could this be any more embarrassing? I can't. Not with you here. You might fall. Mr. Gray! We both ignore the nurse. Please, I beg. He raises his hands in defeat. I'll stand outside. Door open. He takes a couple of paces back until he's standing just outside the door with the angry nurse. Turn around, please, I asked. Why do I feel so ridiculously shy with this man? He rolls his eyes but complies, and when his back is turned, I let go and savor the relief. I take stock of my injuries. My head hurts, my chest aches where Jack kicked me, and my side throbs where he pushed me to the ground. Plus, I'm thirsty and hungry. Jeez, really hungry. I finish up, thankful that I don't have to get up to wash my hands as the sink is close. I just don't have the strength to stand. I'm done, I call, drying my hands on the towel. Christian turns and comes back in, and before I know it, I'm in his arms again. I have missed these arms. He pauses and buries his nose in my hair. Oh, I've missed you, Mrs. Gray, he whispers, and with Nurse Nora fussing behind him, he lays me back on the bed and releases me, reluctantly, I think. If you've quite finished, Mr. Gray, I'd like to check over Mrs. Gray now. Nurse Nora is mad. He stands back. She's all yours, he says in a more measured tone. She huffs at him and then turns her attention back to me. Exasperating, isn't he? How do you feel? She asks me, her voice laced with sympathy and a trace of irritation, which I suspect is for Christian's benefit. Sore and thirsty, very thirsty, I whisper. I'll fetch you some water once I've checked your vitals and Dr. Bartley has examined you. She reaches for a blood pressure cuff and wraps it around my upper arm. I glance anxiously up at Christian. He looks dreadful, haunted even, as if he hasn't slept for days. His hair is a mess. He hasn't shaved for a long time, and his shirt is badly wrinkled. I frown. How are you feeling? Ignoring the nurse, he sits down on the bed out of arm's reach. Confused, achy, hungry. Hungry? He blinks in surprise. I nod. What do you want to eat? Anything. Soup? Mr. Gray, you'll need the doctor's approval before Mrs. Gray can eat. He gazes at her impassively for a moment, then takes his BlackBerry out of his pants pocket and presses a number. Anna wants chicken soup. Good. Thank you. He hangs up. I glance at Nora, whose eyes narrow at Christian. Taylor? I ask quickly. Christian nods. Your blood pressure is normal, Mrs. Gray. I'll fetch the doctor. She removes the cuff and, without so much as another word, stalks out of the room, radiating disapproval. I think you made Nurse Nora mad. I have that effect on women. He smirks. I laugh, then stop suddenly as pain radiates through my chest. Yes, you do. Oh, Anna, I love to hear you laugh. Nora returns with a pitcher of water. We both fall silent, gazing at each other as she pours out a glass and hands it to me. Small sips now, she warns. Yes, ma'am, I mutter, and take a welcome sip of cool water. Oh my, it tastes perfect. I take another, and Christian watches me intently. Mia? I ask. She's safe, thanks to you. They did have her? Yes. All the madness was for a reason. Relief spirals through my body. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God she's okay. I frown. How did they get her? Elizabeth Morgan. He says simply. No. He nods. She picked her up at Mia's gym. I frown, still not understanding. Anna, I'll fill you in on the details later. Mia is fine, all things considered. She was drugged. She's groggy now and shaken up, but by some miracle, she wasn't harmed. Christian's jaw clenches. What you did, he runs his hand through his hair, was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. You could have been killed. His eyes blaze a bleak, chilling gray, and I know he's restraining his anger. I didn't know what else to do, I whisper. You could have told me, he says vehemently, fisting his hands in his lap. He said he'd kill her if I told anyone. I couldn't take that risk. Christian closes his eyes, dread etched in his face. I have died 1,000 deaths since Thursday. Thursday? What day is it? It's almost Saturday, he says, checking his watch. You've been unconscious for more than 24 hours. Oh. And Jack and Elizabeth? In police custody, although Hyde is here under guard. They had to remove the bullet you left in him, Christian says bitterly. I don't know where in the hospital he is, fortunately, or I'd probably kill him myself. His face darkens. Oh shit, Jack is here? That's for SIP, you fucking bitch. I pale. My empty stomach convulses. Tears prick my eyes, and a deep shudder runs through me. Hey. Christian scoots forward, his voice filled with concern. Taking the glass from my hand, he tenderly folds me into his arms. You're safe now, he murmurs against my hair, his voice hoarse. Christian, I'm so sorry. My tears start to fall. Hush. He strokes my hair, and I weep into his neck. What I said, I was never going to leave you. Hush, baby. I know. You do? His admission halts my tears. I worked it out, eventually. Honestly, Anna, what were you thinking? His tone is strained. You took me by surprise, I mutter into his shirt collar. When we spoke at the bank, thinking I was leaving you, I thought you knew me better. I've said to you over and over I would never leave. But after the appalling way I've behaved, his voice is barely audible, and his arms tighten around me. I thought for a short time that I'd lost you. No, Christian, never. I didn't want you to interfere and put Mia's life in danger. He sighs, and I don't know if it's from anger, exasperation, or hurt.
I didn't like it.
How did you work it out? I ask quickly to distract him from his line of thought. He tucks my hair behind my ear. I'd just touched down in Seattle when the bank called. Last I'd heard, you were ill and going home. So you were in Portland when Sawyer called you from the car? We were just about to take off. I was worried about you. He says softly. You were? He frowns. Of course I was. He skirts his thumb over my bottom lip. I spend my life worrying about you. You know that. Christian. Jack called me at the office, I murmur. He gave me 2 hours to get the money. I shrugged. I had to leave, and it just seemed the best excuse. Christian's mouth presses into a hard line. And you gave Sawyer the slip. He's mad at you as well. As well? As well as me. I tentatively touch his face, running my fingers over his stubble. He closes his eyes, leaning into my fingers. Don't be mad at me.
Maybe you can find out one of these days. That was a
I whisper. I am so mad at you. What you did was monumentally stupid, bordering on insane. I told you. I didn't know what else to do. You don't seem to have any regard for your personal safety. And it's not just you now. He adds angrily. My lip trembles. He's thinking about our little blip. The door opens, startling us both, and a young African-American woman in a white coat over gray scrubs strides in. Good evening, Mrs. Gray. I'm Dr. Bartley. She starts to examine me thoroughly, shining a light in my eyes, making me touch her fingers, then my nose, while closing first one eye and then the other, and checking all my reflexes. Her voice is soft, and her touch gentle. She has a warm bedside manner. Nurse Nora joins her, and Christian wanders to the corner of the room and makes some calls, while the two of them tend to me. It's hard to concentrate on Dr. Bartley, Nurse Nora, and Christian at the same time. But I hear him call his father, my mother, and Kate to say I'm awake. Finally, he leaves a message for Ray. Ray, oh shit. A vague memory of his voice comes back to me. He was here. Yes, while I was still unconscious. Dr. Bartley checks my ribs, her fingers probing gently but firmly. I wince. These are bruised, not cracked or broken. You were very lucky, Mrs. Gray. I scowl. Lucky? Not the word I would have chosen. Christian glowers at her too. He mouths something at me. I think it's foolhardy, but I'm not sure. I'll prescribe some painkillers. You'll need them for this and for the headache you must have. But all's looking as it should, Mrs. Gray. I suggest you get some sleep. Depending on how you feel in the morning, we may let you go home. My colleague, Dr. Singh, will be attending you then. Thank you. There's a knock on the door, and Taylor enters, bearing a black cardboard box with Fairmont Olympic emblazoned in cream on the side. Holy cow! Food, Dr. Bartley says, surprised. Mrs. Gray is hungry, Christian says. This is chicken soup. Dr. Bartley smiles. Soup will be fine. Just the broth. Nothing heavy. She looks pointedly at both of us, then exits the room with Nurse Nora. Christian pulls a wheeled tray over to me, and Taylor places the box on it. Welcome back, Mrs. Gray. Hello, Taylor. Thank you. You're most welcome, ma'am. I think he wants to say more, but he holds off. Christian is unpacking the box, producing a thermos, soup bowl, side plate, linen napkin, soup spoon, a small basket of bread rolls, silver salt and pepper shakers. The Olympic has gone all out. This is great, Taylor. My stomach is rumbling. I am famished. Will that be all? He asks. Yes, thanks. Christian says, dismissing him. Taylor nods. Taylor, thank you. Anything else I can get you, Mrs. Gray? I glance at Christian. Just some clean clothes for Christian. Taylor smiles. Yes, ma'am. Christian glances down at his shirt, bemused. How long have you been wearing that shirt? I ask. Since Thursday morning. He gives me a crooked smile. Taylor exits. Taylor's real pissed at you too, Christian adds grumpily, unscrewing the lid of the thermos and pouring creamy chicken soup into the bowl. Taylor too? But I don't dwell on that as my chicken soup distracts me. It smells delicious, and steam curls invitingly from its surface. I take a taste, and it's everything it promised to be. Good. Wipe my mouth with a linen napkin. Well, whispers, his tone adamant. I continue with my soup. Hey. Christian's gaze softens, and after he resumes. Anyway, shortly after you and I had finished our conversation, Taylor informed me that Hyde had been granted bail. How? Don't know. I thought we managed to work in an but that gave me a moment to think about what you'd said. I knew something was seriously wrong. It was never about the money, I snapped suddenly, an unexpected surge of anger flaring in my belly. My voice rises. How could you even think that? It's never been about your fucking money. My head starts to pound, and I wince. Christian gapes at me for a split second, surprised by my vehemence. He narrows his eyes. Mind your language, he growls. Calm down and eat. I glare mutinously at him. Anna, he warns. That hurt me more than anything, Christian, I whisper. Almost as much as you seeing that woman. He inhales sharply, as if I've slapped him, and all of a sudden, he looks exhausted. Closing his eyes briefly, he shakes his head, resigned. I know, he sighs, and I'm sorry, more than you know. His eyes are luminous with contrition. Please eat while your soup is still hot. His voice is soft and compelling, and I do as he asks. He breathes a sigh of relief. Go on, I whisper, between bites of the illicit fresh white bread roll. We didn't know Mia was missing. I thought maybe he was blackmailing you or something. I called you back, but you didn't answer. He scowls. I left you a message and then called Sawyer. Taylor started tracking your cell. I knew you were at the bank, so we headed straight there. I don't know how Sawyer found me. Was he tracking my cell too? The Saab is fitted with a tracking device. All of our cars are. By the time we got near the bank, you were already on the move, and we followed. Why are you smiling? On some level, I knew you'd be stalking me. And that is amusing because, he asks, Jack had instructed me to get rid of my cell, so I borrowed Whelan's cell, and that's the one I threw away. I put mine into one of the duffel bags so you could track your money. Christian sighs. Our money, Anna, he says quietly. Eat. I wipe my soup bowl with the last of my bread and pop it into my mouth. For the first time in a long while, replete in spite of our conversation. Finished? Good girl. There's a knock on the door, and Nurse Nora enters once more, carrying a small paper cup. Christian clears away my plate and starts putting all the items back into the box. Pain relief. Nora smiles, showing a pill in the paper cup. Is this okay to take? You know, with the baby? Yes, Mrs. Gray. It's Lortab. It's fine. It won't affect the baby. I nod gratefully. My head is pounding. I swallow it down with a sip of water. You want to rest, Mrs. Gray. Nurse Nora looks pointedly at Christian. He nods. No! You're going? I exclaim, panic setting in. Don't go! We've just started talking. Christian snorts. If you think for one moment I'm going to let you out of my sight, Mrs. Gray, you are very much mistaken. Nora huffs, but hovers over me and readjusts my pillows so that I have to lie down. Good night, Mrs. Gray, she says, and with one last censorious glance at Christian, she leaves. He raises an eyebrow as she closes the door. I don't think Nurse Nora approves of me. He stands by the bed, looking tired, and despite the fact that I want him to stay, I know I should try to persuade him to go home. You need rest too, Christian. Go home. You look exhausted. I'm not leaving you. I'll doze in this armchair. I scowl at him, then shift onto my side. Sleep with me. He frowns. No, I can't. Why not? I don't want to hurt you. You won't hurt me. Please, Christian. You have an IV. Christian, please. He gazes at me, and I can tell he's tempted. Please. I lift up the blankets, inviting him into the bed. Fuck it. He slips off his shoes and socks and gingerly climbs in bed beside me. Gently, he wraps his arm around me, and I lay my head on his chest. He kisses my hair. I don't think Nurse Nora will be very happy with this arrangement, he whispers conspiratorially. I giggle, then stop as pain lances through my chest. Don't make me laugh. It hurts. Oh, but I love that sound, he says a little sadly, his voice low. I'm sorry, baby. So sorry. He kisses my hair again and inhales deeply, and I don't know what he's apologizing for, making me laugh, or the mess we're in. I rest my hand over his heart, and he gently places his hand on mine. We are both silent for a moment. Why did you go see that woman? Oh, Anna, he groans. You want to discuss that now? Can't we drop this? I regret it, okay? I need to know. I'll tell you tomorrow, he mutters, irritated. Oh, and Detective Clark wants to talk to you. Just routine. Now go to sleep. He kisses my hair. I sigh heavily. I need to know why. At least he says he regrets it. That's something, my subconscious agrees. She's in an agreeable mood today, it seems. Ugh, Detective Clark. I shudder at the thought of reliving Thursday's events for him. Do we know why Jack was doing all this? Christian murmurs. I'm soothed by the slow rise and fall of his chest, gently rocking my head, lulling me to sleep as his breathing slows. And while I drift, I try to make sense of the fragments of conversations I heard while I was on the edge of consciousness. But they slither through my mind, remaining steadfastly elusive, haunting me from the edges of my memory. Oh, it's frustrating and exhausting. And Nurse Nora's mouth is pursed and her arms folded in hostility. I put my finger to my lips. Please let him sleep, I whisper, squinting in the early morning light. This is your bed, not his, she hisses sternly. I slept better because he was here, I insist, rushing to my husband's defense. Besides, it's true. Christian stirs, and Nurse Nora and I freeze. He mumbles in his sleep, "Don't touch me. No more. Only Anna." I frown. I have rarely heard Christian talk in his sleep. Admittedly, that might be because he sleeps less than I do. I've only ever heard his nightmares. His arms tighten around me, squeezing me, and I wince. "Mrs. Gray?" Nurse Nora glowers. "Please," I beg. She shakes her head, turns on her heel, and leaves, and I snuggle up against Christian again. When I wake, Christian is nowhere to be seen. The sun is blazing through the windows, and I can now really appreciate the room. I have flowers. I didn't notice them the night before. Several bouquets. I wonder idly who they're from. A soft knock distracts me, and Carrick peeks around the door. He beams when he sees that I'm awake. "May I come in?" he asks. "Of course." He strides into the room and over to me, his soft, gentle blue eyes assessing me shrewdly. He's wearing a dark suit. He must be working. He surprises me by leaning and kissing my forehead. "May I sit?" I nod, and he perches on the edge of the bed and takes my hand. "I don't know how to thank you for my daughter, you brave, darling girl. What you did probably saved her life. I will be forever in your debt." His voice wavers, filled with gratitude and compassion. Oh, I don't know what to say. I squeeze his hand but remain mute. "How are you feeling?" "Better. Sore," I say for honesty's sake. "Have they given you meds for the pain?" "Lore something." "Good. Where's Christian?" "I don't know. When I woke up, he was gone." "He won't be far away, I'm sure. He wouldn't leave you while you were unconscious." "I know." "He's a little mad at you, as he should be." Eric smirks. "Ah, this is where Christian gets it from. Christian is always mad at me." "Is he?" Eric smiles, pleased, as if this is a good thing. His smile is infectious. "How's Mia?" His eyes cloud and his smile vanishes. "She's better. Mad as hell. I think anger is a healthy reaction to what happened to her." "Is she here?" "No, she's back at home. I don't think Grace will let her out of her sight." "I know how that feels." "You need watching too," he admonishes. "I don't want you taking any more silly risks with your life or the life of my grandchild." I flush. He knows. "Grace read your chart. She told me. Congratulations." Thank you." He gazes down at me, and his eyes soften, though he frowns at my expression. "Christian will come around," he says gently. "This will be the best thing for him. Just give him some time." I nod. Oh, they've spoken. "I'd better go. I'm due in court." He smiles and rises. "I'll check in on you later. Grace speaks highly of Dr. Singh and Dr. Bartley. They know what they're doing." He leans down and kisses me once more. "I mean it, Anna. I can never repay what you've done for us. Thank you." I look up at him, blinking back tears, suddenly overwhelmed, and he strokes my cheek affectionately. Then he turns on his heel and leaves. Oh my, I'm reeling from his gratitude. Perhaps now I can let the prenup debacle go. My subconscious nods sagely in agreement with me yet again. I shake my head and gingerly get out of bed. I'm relieved to find that I am much steadier on my feet than I was yesterday. In spite of Christian sharing the bed, I have slept well and feel refreshed. My head still aches, but it's a dull, nagging pain, nothing like the pound yesterday. I'm stiff and sore, but I just need a bath. I feel grimy. I head into the ensuite. Anna! Christian shouts. I'm in the bathroom, I call as I finish brushing my teeth. That feels better. I ignore my reflection in the mirror. Crap, I look a mess. When I open the door, Christian is by the bed, holding a tray of food. He's transformed, dressed entirely in black. He's shaved, showered, and looks well rested. Good morning, Mrs. Gray, he says brightly. I have your breakfast. He looks so boyish and much happier. Wow. I smile broadly as I climb back into bed. He pulls over the tray on wheels and lifts the cover to reveal my breakfast. Oatmeal with dried fruits, pancakes with maple syrup, bacon, orange juice, and Twining's English breakfast tea. My mouth waters. I'm so hungry. I down the orange juice in a few gulps and dig into the oatmeal. Christian sits down on the edge of the bed to watch. He smirks. What? I ask with my mouth full. I like to watch you eat, he says. But I don't think that's what he's smirking about. How are you feeling? Better, I mutter between mouthfuls. I've never seen you eat like this. I glance up at him and my heart sinks. We have to address the very tiny elephant in the room. It's because I'm pregnant, Christian. He snorts and his mouth twists into an ironic smile. If I knew getting you knocked up was going to make you eat, I might have done it earlier. Christian Gray, I gasp and set the oatmeal down. Don't stop eating, he warns. Christian, we need to talk about this. He stills. What's there to say? We're going to be parents. He shrugs, desperately trying to look nonchalant, but all I can see is pushing the tray aside. I crawl down the bed to him and take his hands in mine. You're scared, I whisper. I get it. He gazes at me, impassive, his eyes wide and all his earlier boyishness stripped away. I am too. That's normal, I whisper. What kind of father could I possibly be? His voice is hoarse, barely audible. Oh, Christian. I stifle a sob. One that tries his best? That's all any of us can do. Anna, I don't know if I can. Of course you can. You're loving, you're fun, you're strong. You'll set boundaries. Our child will want for nothing. He's frozen, staring at me, doubt etched on his beautiful face. Yes, it would have been ideal to have waited, to have longer, just the two of us. But we'll be three of us, and we'll all grow up together. We'll be a family, our own family, and your child will love you unconditionally, like I do. Tears spring to my eyes. Oh, Anna, Christian whispers, his voice anguished and pained. I thought I'd lost you. Then I thought I'd lost you again. Seeing you lying on the ground, pale and cold and unconscious. It was all my worst fears realized. And now, here you are, brave and strong, giving me hope, loving me after all that I've done. Yes, I do love you, Christian, desperately. I always will. Gently taking my head between his hands, he wipes my tears away with his thumbs. He gazes into my eyes, gray to blue, and all I see is his fear and wonder and love. I love you too, he breathes, and he kisses me sweetly, tenderly, like a man who adores his wife. I'll try to be a good father, he whispers against my lips. You'll try, and you'll succeed. And let's face it, you don't have much choice in the matter, because Blip and I are not going anywhere. Blip? Blip. He raises his eyebrows. I had the name Junior in my head. Junior it is, then. But I like Blip. He smiles his shy smile and kisses me once more. Chapter 24. Much as I'd like to kiss you all day, your breakfast is getting cold. Christian murmurs against my lips. He gazes down at me, now amused, except his eyes are darker, sensual. Holy cow, he's switched again. My Mr. Mercurial, eat, he orders. His voice soft. I swallow, a reaction to his smoldering look, and crawl back into bed, avoiding snagging my IV line. He pushes the tray in front of me. The oatmeal is cold, but the pancakes under the cover are fine. They're mouth-watering. You know, I mutter between mouthfuls, Blip might be a girl. Christian runs his hand through his hair. 2 women, eh? Alarm flashes across his face. His dark look vanishes. Oh, crap. Do you have a preference? Preference? Boy or girl? He frowns. Healthy will do, he says quietly, clearly disconcerted by the question. Eat, he snaps, and I know he's trying to avoid the subject. I'm eating. Jeez, keep your hair on, Gray. I watch him carefully. The corners of his eyes are crinkled with worry. He said he'll try, but I know he's still freaked out by the baby. Oh, Christian, so am I. He sits down on the armchair beside me, picking up the Seattle Times. You made the papers again, Mrs. Gray. His tone is bitter. Again? The hacks are just rehashing yesterday's story, but it seems factually accurate. You want to read it? I shake my head. Read it to me. I'm eating. He smirks and proceeds to read the article aloud. It's a report on Jack and Elizabeth, depicting them as a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. It briefly covers Mia's kidnapping, my involvement in Mia's rescue, and the fact that both Jack and I are in the same hospital. How does the press get all this information? I must ask Kate. When Christian finishes, I say, please read something else. I like listening to you. He obliges and reads me a report about a booming bagel business and the fact that Boeing has had to cancel the launch of some plane. Christian frowns as he reads, but listening to his soothing voice as I eat, secure in the knowledge that I am fine, Mia is safe, and my little Blip is safe, I feel a precious moment of peace, despite all that has happened over the last few days. I understand that Christian is scared about the baby, but I don't understand the depth of his fear. I resolve to talk to him some more about this, see if I can put his mind at ease. What puzzles me is that he hasn't lacked for positive role models as parents. Both Grace and Carrick are exemplary parents, or so they seem. Maybe it was the bitch troll's interference that damaged him so badly. I'd like to think so, but in truth, I think it goes back to his birth mom, though I'm sure Mrs. Robinson didn't help. I halt my thoughts as I nearly recall a whispered conversation. Damn, it hovers on the edge of my memory from when I was unconscious. Christian talking with Grace. It melts away into the shadows of my mind. Oh, it's so frustrating. I wonder if Christian will ever volunteer the reason he went to see her, or if I'll have to push him. I'm about to ask when there's a knock on the door. Detective Clark makes an apologetic entry into the room. He's right to be apologetic. My heart sinks when I see him. Mr. Gray, Mrs. Gray, am I interrupting? Yes, snaps Christian. Clark ignores him. Glad to see you're awake, Mrs. Gray. I need to ask you a few questions about Thursday afternoon. Just routine. Is now a convenient time? Sure, I mumble, but I do not want to relive Thursday's events. My wife should be resting, Christian bristles. I'll be brief, Mr. Gray. And it means I'll be out of your hair sooner rather than later. Christian stands and offers Clark his chair, then sits down beside me on the bed, takes my hand, and squeezes it reassuringly. Half an hour later, Clark is done. I've learned nothing new, but I've recounted the events of Thursday to him in a halting, quiet voice, watching Christian go pale and grimace at some parts. I wish you'd aimed higher, Christian mutters. Might have done womankind a service if Mrs. Gray had. Clark agrees. What? Thank you, Mrs. Gray. That's all for now. You won't let him out again, will you? I don't think he'll make bail this time, ma'am. Do we know who posted his bail? Christian asks. No, sir. It was confidential. Christian frowns, but I think he has his suspicions. Clark rises to leave, just as Dr. Singh and two interns enter the room. After a thorough examination, Dr. Singh declares me fit to go home. Christian sags with relief. Mrs. Gray, you will have to watch for worsening headaches and blurry vision. If that occurs, you must return to the hospital immediately. I nod, trying to contain my delight at going home. As Dr. Singh leaves, Christian asks her for a quick word in the corridor. He keeps the door ajar as he asks her a question. She smiles. Yes, Mr. Gray, that's fine. He grins and returns to the room a happier man. What was all that about? Sex, he says, flashing a wicked grin. Oh, I blush. And? You're good to go. He smirks. Oh, Christian. I have a headache. I smirk right back. I know. You'll be off limits for a while. I was just checking. Off limits? I frown at the momentary stab of disappointment I feel. I'm not sure I want to be off limits. Nurse Nora joins us to remove my IV. She glares at Christian. I think she's one of the few women I've met who is oblivious to his charms. I thank her when she leaves with my IV stand. Shall I take you home? Christian asks. I'd like to see Ray first. Sure. Does he know about the baby? I thought you'd want to be the one to tell him. I haven't told your mom either. Thank you. I smile, grateful that he hasn't stolen my thunder. My mom knows. Christian adds. She saw your chart. I told my dad, but no one else. Mom said couples normally wait for 12 weeks or so. To be sure. He shrugs. I'm not sure I'm ready to tell Ray. I should warn you, he's mad as hell. Said I should spank you. What? Christian laughs at my appalled expression. I told him I'd be only too willing to oblige. You didn't, I gasped, though an echo of a whispered conversation tantalizes my memory. Yes, Ray was here while I was unconscious. He winks at me. Here, Taylor brought you some clean clothes. I'll help you dress. As Christian predicted, Ray is furious. I don't ever remember him being this mad. Christian has wisely decided to leave us alone. For such a taciturn man, Ray fills his hospital room with his invective, berating me for my irresponsible behavior. I am 12 years old again. Oh, Dad, please calm down. Your blood pressure is not up to this. And I've had to deal with your mother, he grumbles, waving both of his hands in exasperation. Dad, I'm sorry. And poor Christian. I've never seen him like that. He's aged. We've both aged years over the past couple of... Ray, I'm sorry. Your mother is waiting for the call, he says in a more measured tone. I kiss his cheek, and finally he relents from his tirade. I'll call her. I really am sorry, but thank you for teaching me to shoot. For a moment, he regards me with ill-concealed paternal pride. I'm glad you can shoot straight, he says, his voice gruff. Now go on home and get some rest. You look well, Dad. I try to change the subject. You look pale. His fear is suddenly evident. His look mirrors Christian's from last night. and I grasp his hand. I'm okay. I promise I won't do anything like that again. He squeezes my hand and pulls me into a hug. If anything happened to you, he whispers, his voice hoarse and low. Tears prick my eyes. I am not used to displays of emotion from my stepfather. Dad, I'm good. Nothing that a hot shower won't cure. We leave through the rear exit of the hospital to avoid the paparazzi gathered at the entrance. Taylor leads us to the waiting SUV. Christian is quiet as Sawyer drives us home. I avoid Sawyer's gaze in the rearview mirror, embarrassed that the last time I saw him was at the bank when I gave him the slip. I call my mom, who sobs and sobs. It takes most of the journey home to calm her down, but I succeed by promising that we'll visit soon. Throughout my conversation with her, Christian holds my hand, brushing his thumb across my knuckles. He's nervous. Something's happened. What's wrong? I ask when I'm finally free from my mother. Welch wants to see me. Welch? Why? He's found something out about that fucker Hyde. Christian's lip curls into a snarl, and a frisson of fear passes through me. He didn't want to tell me on the phone. Oh, he's coming here this afternoon from Detroit. You think he's found a connection? Christian nods. What do you think it is? I have no idea. Christian's brow furrows, perplexed. Taylor pulls into the garage at Escala and stops by the elevator to let us out before he parks. In the garage, we can avoid the attention of the waiting photographers. Christian ushers me out of the car. Keeping his arm around my waist, he leads me to the waiting elevator. Glad to be home? He asks. Yes, I whisper. But as I stand in the familiar surroundings of the elevator, the enormity of what I've been through crashes over me, and I start to shake. Hey. Christian wraps his arms around me and pulls me close. You're home. You're safe, he says, kissing my hair. Oh, Christian. A dam I didn't even know was in place bursts, and I start to sob. Hush now, Christian whispers, cradling my head against his chest. But it's too late. I weep, overwhelmed into his t-shirt, recalling Jack's vicious attack. That's for SIP, you fucking bitch. Telling Christian I was leaving. You're leaving me? And my fear, my gut-wrenching fear for Mia, for myself, and for little Blip. When the doors of the elevator slide open, Christian picks me up like a child and carries me into the foyer. I wrap my arms around his neck and cling to him, keening quietly. He carries me through to our bathroom and gently settles me on the chair. Bath? He asks. I shake my head. No, not like Layla. Shower. His voice is choked with concern. Through my tears, I nod. I want to wash away the grime of the last few days, wash away the memory of Jack's attack. You gold-digging whore. I sob into my hands as the sound of the water cascading from the shower echoes off the walls. Hey, Christian croons. Kneeling in front of me, he pulls my hands away from my tear-stained cheeks and cups my face in his hands. I gaze at him, blinking away my tears. You're safe. You both are, he whispers. Blip and me. My eyes brim with tears again. Stop now. I can't bear it when you cry. His voice is hoarse. His thumbs wipe my cheeks, but my tears still flow. I'm sorry, Christian. Just sorry for everything. For making you worry, for risking everything, for the things I said. Hush, baby, please. He kisses my forehead. I'm sorry. It takes two to tango, Anna. He gives me a crooked smile. Well, that's what my mom always says. I said things and did things I'm not proud of. His gray eyes are bleak, but penitent. Let's get you undressed. His voice is soft. I wipe my nose with the back of my hand, and he kisses my forehead once more. Briskly, he strips me, taking particular care as he pulls my t-shirt over my head. But my head is not too sore. Leading me to the shower, he peels off his own clothing in record time before stepping into the welcome hot water with me. He pulls me into his arms and holds me for the longest time, as the water gushes over us, soothing us both. He lets me cry into his chest. Occasionally he kisses my hair, but he doesn't let go. He just rocks me gently beneath the warm water. I feel his skin against mine, his chest hair against my cheek. This man I love, this self-doubting, beautiful man, the man I could have lost through my own recklessness. I feel empty and aching at the thought, but grateful that he's here. Still here, despite everything that's happened. He has some explaining to do, but right now I want to revel in the feel of his comforting, protective arms around me. And in that moment, it occurs to me, any explanations on his part have to come from him. I can't force him. He's got to want to tell me. I won't be cast as the nagging wife, constantly trying to wheedle information out of her husband. It's just exhausting. I know he loves me. I know he loves me more than he has ever loved anyone. And for now, that's enough. The realization is liberating. I stop crying and step back. Better? He asks. I nod. Good. Let me look at you, he says. And for a moment, I don't know what he means. But he takes my hand and examines the arm I fell on when Jack hit me. There are bruises on my shoulder and scrapes at my elbow and wrist. He kisses each of them. He grabs the washcloth and shower gel from the rack, and the sweet, familiar scent of jasmine fills my nostrils. Turn around. Gently, he proceeds to wash my injured arm, then my neck, my shoulders, my back, and my other arm. He turns me sideways and traces his long fingers down my side. I wince as they skate over the large bruise at my hip. Christian's eyes harden and his lips thin. His anger is palpable as he whistles through his teeth. It doesn't hurt, I murmur to reassure him. Blazing gray eyes meet mine. I want to kill him. I nearly did, he whispers cryptically. I frown, then shiver at his bleak expression. He squirts more shower gel on the washcloth, and with tender, aching gentleness, he washes my side and my behind. Then, kneeling, moves down my legs. He pauses to examine my knee. His lips brush over the bruise before he returns to washing my legs and my feet. Reaching down, I caress his head, running my fingers through his wet hair. He stands, and his fingers trace the outline of the bruise on my ribs where Jack kicked me. Oh, baby, he groans, his voice filled with anguish, his eyes dark with fury. I'm okay. I pull his head down to mine and kiss his lips. He is hesitant to reciprocate, but as my tongue meets his body stirs against me. No, he whispers against my lips, and he pulls back. Let's get you clean. His face is serious, and he means it. I pout, and the atmosphere between us lightens in an instant. He grins and kisses me briefly. Clean, he emphasizes, not dirty. I like dirty. Me too, Mrs. Gray, but not now, not here. He grabs the shampoo, and before I can persuade him otherwise, he's washing my hair. I love clean, too. I feel refreshed and reinvigorated, and I don't know if it's from the shower, the crying, or my decision to stop hassling Christian about everything. He wraps me in a large towel and drapes one around his hips while I gingerly dry my hair. My head aches, but it's a dull, persistent pain that is more than manageable. I have some painkillers from Dr. Singh, but she's asked me not to use them unless I have to. As I dry my hair, I think about Elizabeth. I still don't understand why Elizabeth was involved with Jack. I do, Christian mutters darkly. This is news. I frown up at him, but I'm distracted. He's drying his hair with a towel, his chest and shoulders still wet with beads of water that glint beneath the halogens. He pauses and smirks. Enjoying the view? How do you know? I ask, trying to ignore that I've been caught staring at my own husband. That you're enjoying the view? He teases. No, I scold. About Elizabeth. Detective Clark hinted at it. I give him my tell me more expression, and another nagging memory from when I was unconscious surfaces. Clark was in my room. I wish I could remember what he said. I'd had videos of all of them, on several USB flash drives. What? I frown, my skin tightening across my forehead. Videos of him fucking her and fucking all his PAs. Oh, exactly. Blackmail material. He likes it rough. Christian frowns, and I watch confusion followed by disgust cross his face. He pales as his disgust turns to self-loathing. Of course. Christian likes it rough too. Don't! The word is out of my mouth before I can stop it. His frown deepens. Don't what? He stills and regards me with apprehension. You aren't anything like him. Christian's eyes harden, but he says nothing, confirming that's exactly what he's thinking. You're not. My voice is adamant. We're cut from the same cloth. No, you're not, I snap, though I understand why he might think so. His dad died in a brawl in a bar. His mother drank herself into oblivion. He was in and out of foster homes as a kid, in and out of trouble too, mainly boosting cars, spent time in juvie. I recall the information Christian revealed on the plane to ask him. You both have troubled pasts, and you were both born in Detroit. That's it, Christian. I fist my hands on my hips. Anna, your faith in me is touching, especially in light of the last few days. We'll know more when Welch is here. He's dismissing the subject. Christian, he stops me with a kiss. Enough, he breathes. And I remember the promise I made to myself not to hound him for information. And don't pout, he adds. Come, let me dry your hair. And I know the subject is closed. After dressing in sweatpants and a t-shirt, I sit between Christian's legs as he dries my hair. So, did Clark tell you anything else while I was unconscious? Not that I recall. I heard a few of your conversations. The hairbrush stills in my hair. Did you? He asks, his tone nonchalant. Yes, my dad, your dad, Detective Clark, your mom, and Kate. Kate was there? Briefly, yes. She's mad at you too. I turn in his lap. Stop with the everyone is mad at Anna crap, okay? Just telling you the truth, Christian says, bemused by my outburst. Yes, it was reckless, but you know, your sister was in danger. His face falls. Yes, she was. Switching off the hairdryer, he puts it down on the bed beside him. He grasps my chin. Thank you, he says, surprising me. But no more recklessness, because next time, I will spank the living shit out of you. I gasp. You wouldn't. I would. He's serious. Holy cow. Deadly serious. I have your stepfather's permission. He smirks. He's teasing me. Or is he? I launch myself at him, and he twists so that I fall onto the bed and into his arms. As I land, pain from my ribs shoots through me, and I wince. Christian pales. Behave, he admonishes, and for a moment, he's angry. Sorry, I mumble, caressing his cheek. He nuzzles my hand and kisses it gently. Honestly, Anna, you really have no regard for your own safety. He tugs up the hem of my t-shirt, then rests his fingers on my belly. I stop breathing. It's not just you anymore. he whispers, trailing his fingertips along the waistband of my sweats, caressing my skin. Desire explodes, unexpected, hot, and heavy in my blood. I gasp and Christian tenses, halting his fingers and gazing down at me. He moves his hand up and tucks a stray lock of hair behind my ear. No, he whispers. What? Don't look at me like that. I've seen the bruises, and the answer's no. His voice is firm, and he kisses my forehead. I squirm. Christian, I whine. No, get into bed. He sits up. Bed? You need rest. I need you. He closes his eyes and shakes his head as if it's a great effort of will. When he opens them again, his eyes are bright with his resolve. Just do as you're told, Anna. I'm tempted to take off all my clothes, but then I remember the bruises, and I know I won't win that way. Reluctantly, I nod. Okay. I deliberately give him an exaggerated pout. He grins, amused. I'll bring you some lunch. You're going to... I nearly expire. He has the grace. I'm going to heat something up. Mrs. Jones has been busy. Christian, I'll do it. I'm fine. Geez, I want sex. I can certainly cook. I sit up awkwardly, trying to hide the flinch caused by my marking ribs. Bed. Christian's eyes flash, and he points to the pillow. Join me, I murmur, wishing I were wearing something a little more alluring than sweatpants and a t-shirt. Anna, get into bed, now. I scowl, stand up, and let my pants drop unceremoniously to the floor, glaring at him the whole time. His mouth twitches with humor as he pulls the duvet back. You heard Dr. Singh. She said rest. His voice is gentler. I slip into bed and fold my arms in frustration. Stay, he says, clearly enjoying himself. My scowl deepens. Mrs. Jones's chicken stew is, without doubt, one of my favorite dishes. Christian eats with me, sitting cross-legged in the middle of the bed. That was very well heated. I smirk and he grins. I'm replete and sleepy. Was this his plan? You look tired. He picks up my tray. I am. Good. Sleepy. He kisses me. I have some work I need to do. I'll do it in here if that's okay with you. I nod, fighting a losing battle with my eyelids. I had no idea chicken stew could be so exhausting. It's dusk when I wake. Pale pink light floods the room. Christian is sitting in the armchair, watching me, gray eyes luminous in the ambient light. He's clutching some papers. His face is ashen. Holy cow! What's wrong? I ask immediately, sitting up and ignoring my protesting ribs. Welch has just left. Oh, shit. And? I lived with the fucker, he whispers. Lived? With Jack? He nods, his eyes wide. You're related? No. Good God, no. I shuffle over and pull the duvet back, inviting him into bed beside me, and to my surprise, he doesn't hesitate. He kicks off his shoes and slides in alongside me. Wrapping one arm around me, he curls up, resting his head in my lap. I'm stunned. What's this? I don't understand, I murmur, running my fingers through his hair and gazing down at him. Christian closes his eyes and furrows his brow as if he's straining to remember. After I was found with a crack whore, before I went to live with Carrick and Grace, I was in the care of Michigan State. I lived in a foster home, but I can't remember anything about that time. My mind reels. A foster home? This is news to both of us. For how long? I whisper. 2 months or so. I have no recollection. Have you spoken to your mom and dad about it? No. Perhaps you should. Maybe they could fill in the blanks. He hugs me tightly. Here. He hands me the papers, which turn out to be 2 photographs. I reach over and switch on the bedside light so I can examine them in detail. The first photo is of a shabby house with a yellow front door and a large gabled window in the roof. It has a porch and a small front yard. It's an unremarkable house. The second photo is of a family. At first glance, an ordinary blue-collar family. A man and his wife, I think, and their children. The adults are both dressed in dowdy, overwashed blue t-shirts. They must be in their 40s. The woman has scraped back blonde hair, and the man a severe buzz cut. But they are both smiling warmly at the camera. The man has his hand draped over the shoulders of a sullen teenage girl. I gaze at each of the children. 2 boys, identical twins, about 12, both with sandy blonde hair, grinning broadly at the camera. There's another boy who's smaller with reddish blonde hair, scowling, and hiding behind him, a copper-haired, gray-eyed little boy, wide-eyed and scared, dressed in mismatched clothes and clutching a child's dirty blanket. "This is you," I whisper, my heart lurching into my throat. I know Christian was 4 when his mother died, but this child looks much younger. He must have been severely malnourished. I stifle a sob as tears spring to my eyes. "Oh, my sweet Misty." Christian nods. "That's me." "Welch brought these photos?" "Yes. I don't remember any of this." His voice is flat and lifeless. "Remember being with foster parents? Why should you?" "Christian, it was a long time ago. Is this what's worrying you?" "I remember other things, from before and after. When I met my mom and dad, but this, it's like there's a huge chasm." My heart twists and understanding dawns. My darling control freak likes everything in its place, and now he's learned he's missing part of the jigsaw. "Is Jack in this picture?" "Yes, he's the older kid." Christian's eyes are screwed shut, and he's clinging to me. I'm a lifer. I run my fingers while I gaze at the older boy, who is glaring, defiant and arrogant, at the camera. I can see it's Jack, but he's just a kid, a sad 8 or 9-year-old hiding his fear behind his hostility. A thought occurs to me. When Jack called to tell me he had Mia, he said if things had been different, it could have been him. Christian closes his eyes and shudders. "That fucker." "You think he did all this because the Greys adopted you instead of him?" "Who knows?" Christian's tone is bitter. "I don't give a fuck about him." Perhaps he knew we were seeing each other when I went for that job interview. Perhaps he planned to seduce me all along. Bile rises in my throat. "I don't think so." Christian mutters, his eyes now open. "The searches he did on my family didn't start until a week or so after you began your job at SIP. Barney knows the exact dates. And Anna, he fucked all of his assistants and taped them." Christian closes his eyes and tightens his grip on me once more. Suppressing the tremor that runs through me, I try to recall my various conversations with Jack when I first started at SIP. I knew deep down he was bad news, yet I ignored all my instincts. Christian's right. I have no regard for my own safety. I remember the fight we had about me going to New York with Jack. Jeez, I could have ended up on some sordid sex tape. The thought is nauseating. And in that moment, I recall the photographs Christian kept of his submissives. Oh shit, we're cut from the same cloth. No, Christian, you're not. You're nothing like him. He's still curled around me like a small boy. "Christian, I think you should talk to your mom and dad." I am reluctant to move him, so I shift and slide back into the bed until we are eye to eye. A bewildered gray gaze meets mine, reminding me of the child in the photograph. Let me call them, I whisper. He shakes his head. Please, I beg. Christian stares at me, pain and self-doubt reflected in his eyes as he considers my request. Oh, Christian, please. I'll call them, he whispers. Good. We can go see them together, or you can go, whichever you prefer. No, they can come here. Why? I don't want you going anywhere. Christian, I'm up for a car journey. No. His voice is firm, but he gives me an ironic smile. Anyway, it's Saturday night. They're probably at some function. Call them. This news has obviously upset you. They might be able to shed some light. I glance at the radio alarm. It's almost 7 in the evening. He regards me impassively for a moment. Okay, he says, as if I've issued him a challenge. Sitting up, he picks up the bedside phone. I wrap my arm around him and rest my head on his chest as he makes the call. Dad? I register his surprise that Carrot has answered the phone. Anna's good. We're home. Welch has just left. He found out the connection. The foster home in Detroit. I don't remember any of that. Christian's voice is almost inaudible as he mutters the last sentence. My heart constricts once more. I hug him and he squeezes my shoulder. Yeah, you will? Great. He hangs up. They're on their way. He sounds surprised, and I realize that he's probably never asked them for help. Good. I should get dressed. Christian's arm tightens around me. Don't go. Okay. I snuggle into his side again, stunned by the fact that he's just told me a great deal about himself, entirely voluntarily. As we stand at the threshold of the great room, Grace wraps me gently in her arms. Anna, darling Anna, she whispers, saving 2 of my children. How can I ever thank you? I blush, touched and embarrassed in equal measure by her words. Eric hugs me too, kissing my forehead. Then Mia grabs me, squashing my ribs. I wince and gasp, but she doesn't notice. Thank you for saving me from those assholes. Christian scowls at her. Mia, careful. She's in pain. Oh, sorry. I'm good, I mutter, relieved when she releases me. She looks fine, impeccably dressed in tight black jeans and a pale pink frilly blouse. I'm glad I'm wearing my comfortable wrap dress and flats. At least I look reasonably presentable. Racing over to Christian, Mia curls her arm around his waist. Wordlessly, he hands Grace the photo. She gasps, her hand flying to her mouth to contain her emotion, as she instantly recognizes Christian. Eric wraps his arm around her shoulders as he too examines it. Oh, darling. Grace caresses Christian's cheek. Taylor appears. Mr. Gray, Miss Kavanaugh, her brother, and your brother are coming up soon. Christian frowns. Thank you, Taylor, he mutters, bemused. I called Elliot and told him we were coming over. Mia grins. It's a welcome home party. I sneak a sympathetic glance at my poor husband, as both Grace and Carrot glare at Mia in exasperation. We'd better get some food together, I declare. Mia, will you give me a hand? Oh, I'd love to. I usher her toward the kitchen area as Christian leads his parents into his study. Kate is apoplectic with righteous indignation that's aimed at me and Christian, but most of all, Jack and Elizabeth. What were you thinking, Anna? She shouts as she confronts me in the kitchen, causing all eyes in the room to turn and stare. Kate, please, I've had the same lecture from everyone. I snap back. She glares at me, and for 1 minute I think I'm going to be subjected to a Catherine Kavanaugh How Not to Succumb to Kidnappers lecture. But instead, she folds me in her arms. Geez, sometimes you don't have the brains you were born with, Steele, she whispers. As she kisses my cheek, there are tears in her eyes. Hey, I've been so worried about you. Don't cry. You'll set me off. She stands back and wipes her eyes, embarrassed, then takes a deep breath and composes herself. On a more positive note, we've set a date for our wedding. We thought next May, and, of course, I want you to be my matron of honor. Oh, Kate! Wow! Congratulations! Crap! Little blip! Junior! What is it? She asks, misinterpreting my alarm. I'm just so happy for you. Some good news for a change. I wrap my arms around her and pull her into a hug. Shit. When is Blip due? Mentally, I calculate my due date. Dr. Green said I was 4 or 5 weeks, so sometime in May? Shit. Elliot hands me a glass of champagne. Oh, shit. Christian emerges from his study, looking ashen, and follows his parents into the great room. His eyes widen when he sees the glass in my hand. Kate. He greets her coolly. Christian? She is equally cool. I sigh. Your meds, Mrs. Gray. He eyes the glass in my hand. I narrow my eyes. Damn it. I want a drink. Grace smiles as she joins me in the kitchen, lifting a glass from Elliot on the way. A sip will be fine, she whispers with a conspiratorial wink at me, and lifts her glass to clink mine. Christian scowls at both of us until Elliot distracts him with news of the latest match between the Mariners and the Rangers. Eric joins us, putting his arms around us both, and Grace kisses his cheek before joining Mia on the sofa. How is he? I whisper to Carrot as he and I stand in the kitchen watching the family lounge on the sofa. I note with surprise that Mia and Ethan are holding hands. Shaken, Eric murmurs to me, his brow furrowing, his face serious. He remembers so much of his life with his birth mother. Many things I wish he didn't. But this... He stops. I hope we've helped. I'm glad he called us. He said you told him to. Eric's gaze softens. I shrug and take a hasty sip of champagne. You were very good for him. He doesn't listen to anyone else. I frown. I don't think that's true. The unwelcome specter of the bitch troll looms large in my mind. I know Christian talks to Grace, too. I heard him. Again, I feel a moment's frustration as I try to fathom their conversation in the hospital. But it still eludes me. Come and sit down, Anna. You look tired. I'm sure you weren't expecting all of us here this evening. It's to see everyone, I said, because it's great. I'm an only child who has married a large and gregarious family, and I love it. I snuggle up next to Christian. One sip, he hisses at me and takes my glass from my hand. Yes, sir. I bat my lashes, disarming him completely. He puts his arm around my shoulders and returns to his baseball conversation with Elliot and Ethan. My parents think you walk on water, Christian mutters as he drags off his t-shirt. I'm curled up in bed watching the floor show. Good thing you know differently, I snort. Oh, I don't know. He slips out of his jeans. Did they fill in the gaps for you? Some. I lived with the Colliers for 2 months while Mom and Dad waited for the paperwork. They were already approved for adoption because of Elliot, but the wait's required by law to see if I had any living relatives who wanted to claim me. How do you feel about that? I whisper. He frowns. About having no living relatives? Fuck that. If they were anything like the crack whore. He shakes his head in disgust. Oh, Christian, you were a child, and you loved your mom. He slides on his pajamas, climbs into bed, and gently pulls me into his arms. It's coming back to me. I remember the food. Mrs. Collier could cook. And at least we know now why that fucker is so hung up on my family. He runs his free hand through his hair. Fuck, he says, suddenly turning to gape at me. What? It makes sense now. His eyes are full of recognition. What? Baby bird. Mrs. Collier used to call me Baby Bird. I frown. That makes sense? The note, he says, gazing at me. The ransom note that fucker left. It went something like, do you know who I am? Because I know who you are, baby bird. This makes no sense to me at all. It's from a kid's book. Christ, the Colliers had it. It was called, Are You My Mother? Shit. His eyes widened. I loved that book. Oh, I know that book. My heart lurches. 50. Mrs. Collier used to read it to me. I am at a loss as to what to say. Christ, he knew. That fucker knew. Will you tell the police? Yes, I will. Christ knows what Clark will do with that information. Christian shakes his head as if trying to clear his thoughts. Anyway, thank you for this evening. Whoa, gear change. For what? Catering for my family at a moment's notice. Don't thank me. Thank Mia and Mrs. Jones. She keeps the pantry well stocked. He shakes his head as if in exasperation. At me? Why? How are you feeling, Mrs. Gray? Good. How are you feeling? I'm fine. He frowns, not understanding my concern. Oh, in that case... I trail my fingers down his stomach to his oh-so-happy trail. He laughs and grabs my hand. Oh no, don't get any ideas. I pout and he sighs. Anna, what am I going to do with you? He kisses my hair. I have some ideas. I squirm beside him and wince as pain radiates through my upper body from my bruised ribs. Baby, you've been through enough. Besides, I have a bedtime story for you. Oh? You wanted to know? He trails off, closes his eyes, and swallows. All the hair on my body stands on end. Shit. He begins in a soft voice. Picture this. An adolescent boy looking to earn some extra money so he can continue his secret drinking habit. He shifts onto his side so that we're lying facing each other, and he's gazing into my eyes. So, I was in the backyard at the Lincolns, clearing some rubble and trash from the extension Mr. Lincoln had just added to their place. Holy fuck, he's talking. Chapter 25. I can barely breathe. Do I want to hear this? Christian closes his eyes and swallows. When he opens them again, they are bright, but diffident, full of disquieting memories. It was a hot summer day. I was working hard. He snorts and shakes his head, suddenly amused. It was back-breaking work, shifting that rubble. I was on my own, and Mrs. Lincoln appeared out of nowhere and brought me some lemonade. We exchanged small talk, and I made some smart-ass remark. And she slapped me. She slapped me so hard. Unconsciously, his hand moves to his face and he caresses his cheek, his eyes clouding at the memory. Holy shit. But then, she kissed me. And when she finished, she slapped me again. He blinks, seemingly still confounded even after all this time. I'd never been kissed before, or hit like that. Oh. She pounced on a kid. Do you want to hear this? Christian asks. Yes? No? Only if you want to tell me. My voice is small as I lie facing him, my mind reeling. I'm trying to give you some context. I nod in what I hope is an encouraging manner, but I suspect I may look like a statue, frozen and wide-eyed with shock. He frowns, eyes searching mine, trying to gauge my reaction. Then he turns onto his back and stares up at the ceiling. Well, naturally, I was confused and angry and horny as hell. I mean, a hot older woman comes onto you like that. He shakes his head as if he still can't believe it. Hot? I feel queasy. She went back into the house, leaving me in the backyard. She acted as if nothing had happened. I was at a total loss. So I went back to work, loading the rubble into the dumpster. When I left that evening, she asked me to come back the next day. She didn't mention what had happened. So the next day, I went back. I couldn't wait to see her again. He whispers, as if it's a dark confession, because, frankly, it is. She didn't touch me when she kissed me, he murmurs, and turns his head to gaze at me. You have to understand, my life was hell on earth. I was a walking hard-on, 15 years old, tall for my age, hormones raging. The girls at school. He stops, but I've got the picture. A scared, lonely, but attractive adolescent. My heart twists. I was angry. So fucking angry at everyone. At myself, my folks. I had no friends. My therapist at the time was a total asshole. My folks, they kept me on a tight leash. They didn't understand. He stares back up at the ceiling and runs a hand through his hair. I itch to run my fingers through his hair too, but I stay still. I just couldn't bear anyone to touch me. I couldn't bear anyone near me. I used to fight. Fuck did I fight. I got into some god-awful brawls. I was expelled from a couple of schools. But it was a way to let off steam, to tolerate some kind of physical contact. He stops again. Well, you get the idea. And when she kissed me, she grabbed my face. Didn't touch me. His voice is barely audible. She must have known. Perhaps Grace had told her. Oh, my poor 50. I have to fold my hands beneath my pillow and rest my head on it in order to resist the urge to hold him. Well, the next day, I went back to the house, not knowing what to expect. And I'll spare you the gory details, but there was more of the same. And that's how our relationship started. Oh, fuck, this is painful to hear. He shifts again onto his side so he's facing me. And you know something, Anna? My world came into focus, sharp and clear. Everything. It was exactly what I needed. She was a breath of fresh air, making the decisions, taking all that shit away from me, letting me breathe. Holy shit. And even when it was over, my world stayed in focus because of her. And it stayed that way until I met you. What the hell am I supposed to say to that? Tentatively, he smooths a stray lock of hair behind my ear. You turned my world on its head. He closes his eyes, and when he opens them again, they are raw. My world was ordered, calm, and controlled. Then you came into my life with your smart mouth, your innocence, your beauty, and your quiet temerity. And everything before you was just dull, empty, mediocre. It was nothing. Oh my. I fell in love, he whispers. I stop breathing. He caresses my cheek. So did I. I murmur, with the little breath I have left. His eyes soften. I know, he mouths. You do? Yes. Hallelujah. I smile shyly at him. Finally, I whisper. He nods, and it's put everything into perspective for me. When I was younger, Elena was the center of my world. There was nothing I wouldn't do for her, and she did a lot for me. She stopped my drinking, made me work hard at school. You know, she gave me a coping mechanism I hadn't had before, allowed me to experience things that I never thought I could. Touch, I whisper. He nods, after a fashion. I frown, wondering what he means. He hesitates at my reaction. How me? I will him. If you grow up with a wholly negative self-image, thinking you're some kind of reject, an unlovable savage, you think you deserve to be. Christian, you are none of those things. He pauses and runs his hand through his hair. Anna, it's much easier to wear your pain on the outside. Again, it's a confession. Oh. She channeled my anger. His mouth presses together in a bleak line, mostly inward. I realize that now. Dr. Flynn's been on and on about this for some time. It was only recently that I saw our relationship for what it was. You know, on my birthday. I shudder as the unwelcome memory of Elena and Christian verbally eviscerating each other at Christian's birthday party surfaces unwelcome in my mind. For her, that side of our relationship was about sex and control, and a lonely woman finding some kind of comfort with her boy toy. But you like control, I whisper. Yes, I do. I always will, Anna. It's who I am. I surrendered it for a brief while. Let someone make all my decisions for me. I couldn't do it myself. I wasn't in a fit state. But through my submission to her, I found myself and found the strength to take charge of my life, take control, and make my own decisions. Become a dom? Yes. Your decision? Yes. Dropping out of Harvard? My decision. And it was the best decision I ever made. Until I met you. Me? Yes. His lips quirk up in a soft smile. The best decision I've ever made was marrying you. Oh my. Not starting your company? He shakes his head. Not learning to fly? He shakes his head. You. He mouths. He caresses my cheek with his knuckles. She knew. He whispers. I frown. She knew what? That I was head over heels in love with you. She encouraged me to go down to Georgia to see you, and I'm glad she did. She thought you'd freak out and leave, which you did. I pale. I'd rather not think about that. She thought I needed all the trappings of the lifestyle I enjoyed. The Dom? I whisper. He nods. It enabled me to keep everyone at arm's length, gave me control, and kept me detached, or so I thought. I'm sure you've worked out why. He adds softly. Your birth mom? I didn't want to be hurt again. And then you left me. His words are barely audible, and I was a mess. Oh no. I've avoided intimacy for so long. I don't know how to do this. You're doing fine, I murmur. I trace his lips with my index finger. He purses them into a kiss. You're talking to me? Do you miss it? I whisper. Miss it? That lifestyle? Yes, I do. Oh, but only insofar as I miss the control it brings. And, frankly, your stupid stunt. He stops. That saved my sister, he whispers, his words full of relief, awe, and disbelief. That's how I know. Know? Really know that you love me. I frown. You do? Yes, because you risked so much. For me. For my family. My frown deepens. He reaches over and traces his finger over the middle of my brow above my nose. You have a V here when you frown, he murmurs. It's very soft to kiss. I can behave so badly, and yet you're still here. Why are you surprised I'm still here? I told you I wasn't going to leave you. Because of the way I behaved when you told me you were pregnant. He runs his finger down my cheek. You were right. I am an adolescent. Oh shit. I did say that. My subconscious glares at me. His doctor said that. Christian, I said some awful things. He puts his index finger over my lips. Hush. I deserved to hear them. Besides, this is my bedtime story. He rolls onto his back again. When you told me you were pregnant, he stops. I'd thought it would just be you and me for a while. I'd considered children, but only in the abstract. I had this vague idea we'd have a child sometime in the future. Just one? No, not an only child. Not like me. Perhaps now's not the best time to bring that up. You are still so young, and I know you're quietly ambitious. Ambitious? Me? Well, you pulled the rug out from under me. Christ, was that unexpected. Never in a million years when I asked you what was wrong did I expect you to be pregnant. He sighs. I was so mad. Mad at you, mad at myself, mad at everyone. And it took me back. That feeling of nothing being in my control. I had to get out. I went to see Flynn, but he was at some school parents' evening. Christian pauses and arches an eyebrow. Ironic, I whisper. Christian smirks in agreement. So I walked and walked and walked, and I just found myself at the salon. Elena was leaving. She was surprised to see me, and, truth be told, I was surprised to find myself there. She could tell I was mad and asked me if I wanted a drink. Oh shit, we've cut to the chase. My heart doubles in speed. Do I really want to know this? My subconscious glares at me, a plucked eyebrow raised in warning. We went to a quiet bar I know and had a bottle of wine. She apologized for the way she behaved the last time she saw us. She's hurt that my mom will have nothing to do with her anymore. It's narrowed her social circle, but she understands. We talked about the business, which is doing fine in spite of the recession. I mentioned that you wanted kids. I frown. I thought you let her know I was pregnant. He regards me, his face guileless. No, I didn't. Why didn't you tell me that? He shrugs. I never got the chance. Yes, you did. I couldn't find you the next morning, Anna. And when I did, you were so mad at me. Oh, yes. I was. Anyway, at some point in the evening, about halfway through the second bottle, she leaned over to touch me, and I froze. He whispers, throwing his arm over his eyes. My scalp tingles. What's this? She saw that I recoiled from her. It shocked both of us. His voice is low, too low. Christian, look at me. I tug at his arm and he lowers it, turning to gaze into my eyes. Shit. His face is pale, his eyes wide. What? I breathe. He frowns and swallows. Oh, what isn't he telling me? Do I want to know? She made a pass at me. He's shocked. I can tell. All the breath is sucked from my body. I feel winded, and I think my heart has stopped. That fucking bitch troll. It was a moment, suspended in time. She saw my expression, and she realized how far she'd crossed the line. I said, no, I haven't thought of her like that for years, and besides, he swallows, I love you. I told her. I love my wife. I gaze at him. I don't know what to say. She backed right off, apologized again, made it seem like a joke. I mean, she said she's happy with Isaac and with the business, and she doesn't bear either of us any ill will. She said she missed my friendship, but she could see that my life was with you now. And how awkward that was, given what happened the last time we were all in the same room. I couldn't have agreed with her more. We said our goodbyes, our final goodbyes. I said I wouldn't see her again, and she went on her way. I swallow, fear gripping my heart. Did you kiss? No, he snorts. I couldn't bear to be that close to her. Oh, good. I was miserable. I wanted to come home to you, but I knew I'd behaved badly. I stayed and finished the bottle, then started on the bourbon. While I was drinking, I remembered your saying to me some time ago, if that was my son. And I got to thinking about Junior, and about how Elena and I started, and it made me feel uncomfortable. I'd never thought of it like that before. A memory blossoms in my mind, a whispered conversation from when I was half conscious, Christian's voice, but seeing her finally put it all in perspective for me, you know, with the child. For the first time I felt what we did, it was wrong. He'd been speaking to Grace. That's it? Pretty much. Oh. Oh? It's over? Yes. It's been over since I laid eyes on you. I finally realized it that night, and so did she. I'm sorry, I mutter. He frowns. What for? Being so angry the next day. He snorts. Baby, I understand angry. He pauses, then sighs. You see, Anna, I want you to myself. I don't want to share you. What we have, I've never had before. I want to be the center of your universe. For a while, at least. Oh, Christian. You are. That's not going to change. He gives me an indulgent, sad, resigned smile. Anna, he whispers, that's just not true. Tears prick my eyes. How can it be? He murmurs. Oh no. Shit, don't cry, Anna. Please, don't cry. He caresses my face. I'm sorry. My lower lip trembles, and he brushes his thumb over it, soothing me. No, Anna, no. Don't be sorry. You'll have someone else to love as well. And you're right. That's how it should be. Blip will love you too. You'll be the center of Blip's, Junior's world, I whisper. Children love their parents unconditionally, Christian. That's how they come into the world, programmed to love. All babies. Even you. Think about that children's book you liked when you were small. You still wanted your mom. You loved her. He furrows his brow and withdraws his hand, fisting it against his chin. No, he whispers. Yes, you did. My tears flow freely now. Of course you did. It wasn't an option. That's why you were so hurt. He stares at me, his expression raw. That's why you're able to love me, I murmur. Forgive her. She had her own world and pain to deal with. She was a shitty mother, and you loved her. He gazes at me, saying nothing, eyes haunted by memories I can't begin to fathom. Please don't stop talking. Eventually, he says, I used to brush her hair. She was pretty. One look at you and no one would doubt that. She was a shitty mother. His voice is barely audible. I nod and he closes his eyes. I'm scared I'll be a shitty father. I stroke his dear face. Oh, my 50. Christian, do you think for 1 minute I'd let you be a shitty father? He opens his eyes and gazes at me for what feels like an eternity. He smiles as relief slowly illuminates his face. No, I don't think you would. He caresses my face with the backs of his knuckles, gazing at me in wonder. God, you're strong, Mrs. Gray. I love you so much. He kisses my forehead. I didn't know I could. Oh, Christian, I whisper, trying to contain my emotions. Now, that's the end of your bedtime story. That's some bedtime story. He smiles wistfully, but I think he's relieved. How's your head? My head? Actually, it's about to explode with all you've told me. Does it hurt? No. Good. I think you should sleep now. Sleep? How can I sleep after all that? Sleep, he says sternly. You need it. I pout. I have one question. Oh? What? He eyes me warily. Why have you suddenly become all forthcoming, for want of a better word? He frowns. You're telling me all this when getting information out of you is normally a pretty harrowing and trying experience. It is? You know it is. Why am I being forthcoming? I can't say. Seeing you practically dead on the cold concrete, maybe? The fact I'm going to be a father? I don't know. You said you wanted to know, and I don't want Elena to come between us. She can't. She's the past, and I've said that to you so many times. If she hadn't made a pass at you, would you still be friends? That's more than one question. Sorry, you don't have to tell me. I flush. You've already volunteered more than I ever thought you would. His gaze softens. No, I don't think so. But she's felt like unfinished business since my birthday. She stepped over the line and I'm done. Please, believe me. I'm not going to see her again. You said she's a hard limit for you. That's a term I understand. He says with quiet sincerity. Okay, I'm going to let this go now. My subconscious sags into her armchair. Finally. Good night, Christian. Thank you for the enlightening bedtime story. I lean over to kiss him, and our lips touch briefly, but he pulls back when I try to deepen the kiss. Don't, he whispers. I am desperate to make love to you. Then do. No, you need to rest, and it's late. Go to sleep. He switches off the bedside light, plunging us into darkness. I love you unconditionally, Christian, I murmur as I cuddle into his side. I know, he whispers, and I sense his shy smile. I wake with a start. Light is flooding the room, and Christian is not in bed. I glance at the clock and see it's 7:53. I take a deep breath and wince as my ribs smart, though not as badly as yesterday. I think I could go to work. Work. Yes. I want to go to work. It's Monday, and I spent all of yesterday lounging about in bed. Christian let me go out only briefly to see Ray. Honestly, he's still such a control freak. I smile fondly. My control freak. He's been attentive and loving and chatty and hands-off since I arrived home. I scowl. I am going to have to do something about this. My head doesn't hurt. The pain around my ribs has eased, though, admittedly, laughing has to be undertaken with caution. But I'm frustrated. I think this is the longest I've gone without sex since the first time. I think we've both recovered our equilibrium. Christian is much more relaxed. His long bedtime story seems to have laid some ghosts to rest. For him, and for me. We'll see. I shower quickly, and once I'm dry, I browse carefully through my clothes. I want something sexy, something that might galvanize Christian into action. Who would have thought such an insatiable man could actually exercise so much self-control? I don't really want to dwell on how Christian learned such discipline over his body. We haven't spoken of the bitch troll once since his confession. I hope we never do. To me, she's dead and buried. I choose an almost indecently short black skirt and a white silk blouse with a frill. I slide on thigh highs with lacy tops and my black Louboutin pumps. A little mascara and lip gloss for a natural look, and after a ferocious brushing, I leave my hair loose. Yes, this should do it. Christian is eating at the breakfast bar. His forkful of omelet stops midair when he sees me. He frowns. Good morning, Mrs. Gray. Going somewhere? Work. I smile sweetly. I don't think so. Christian snorts with amused derision. Dr. Singh said a week off. Christian, I am not spending the day lounging in bed on my own, so I may as well go to work. Good morning, Gail. Mrs. Gray. Mrs. Jones tries to hide a smile. Would you like some breakfast? Please. Granola? I'd prefer scrambled eggs with whole wheat toast. Mrs. Jones grins, and Christian registers his surprise. Very good, Mrs. Gray, Mrs. Jones says. Anna, you are not going to work. But no, it's simple. Don't argue. Christian is adamant. I glare at him, and only then do I notice that he's in the same pajama bottoms and t-shirt he was wearing last night. Are you going to work? I ask. No. Am I going crazy? It is Monday, right? He smiles. Last time I looked. I narrow my eyes. Are you playing hooky? I'm not leaving you here on your own to get into trouble. And Dr. Singh said it would be a week before you could go back to work. Remember? I slide onto a bar stool beside him and hoist my skirt up a little. Mrs. Jones places a cup of tea in front of me. You look good, Christian says. I cross my legs. Very good, especially here. He traces a finger over the bare flesh that shows above my thigh highs. My pulse quickens as his finger runs across my skin. This skirt is very short, he murmurs, vague disapproval in his voice as his eyes follow his finger. Is it? I hadn't noticed. Christian gazes at me, his mouth twisted in an amused yet exasperated smirk. Really, Mrs. Gray? I blush. I'm not sure this look is suitable for the workplace, he murmurs. Well, since I'm not going to work, that's a moot point. Moot? Moot, I mouth. Christian smirks again and resumes eating his omelet. I have a better idea. You do? He glances at me through long lashes, gray eyes darkening. I inhale sharply. Oh my, about time. We can go see how Elliot's getting on at the house. What? Oh, tease. I vaguely remember we were supposed to do that before Ray was injured. I'd love to. Good. He grins. Don't you have to work? No. Roz is back from Taiwan. That all went well. Today, everything's fine. I thought you were going to Taiwan. He snorts again. Anna, you were in the hospital. Oh, yeah, oh. So today I'm spending some quality time with my wife. He smacks his lips together as he takes a sip of coffee. Quality time? I can't disguise the hope in my voice. Mrs. Jones places my scrambled eggs in front of me, again failing to hide her smile. Christian smirks. Quality time. He nods. I am too hungry to flirt anymore with my husband. It's good to see you eat, he murmurs. Rising, he leans over and kisses my hair. I'm going to shower. Can I come and scrub your back? I mumble through a mouthful of toast and scrambled egg. No, eat. Leaving the breakfast bar, he tucks his t-shirt over his head, treating me to the sight of his finely sculptured shoulders and naked back as he saunters out of the great room. I stop mid-chew. He's doing this on purpose. Why? Christian is relaxed on the drive north. We've just left Ray and Mr. Rodriguez watching soccer on the new flat-screen television that I suspect Christian has bought for Ray's hospital room. Christian has been laid back ever since the talk. It's as if a weight has been lifted. Mrs. Robinson's shadow no longer looms so large over us. Maybe because I've decided to let it go. Or because he has. I don't know. But I feel closer to him now than I ever have before. Perhaps because he's finally confided in me. I hope he continues to do so. And he's more accepting of the baby, too. He hasn't gone out and bought a crib yet. But I have high hopes. I gaze at him, drinking him in as he drives. He looks casual, cool, sexy with his tousled hair, Ray-Bans, pinstripe jacket, white linen shirt, and jeans. He glances at me and clasps my leg above the knee, his fingers stroking gently. I'm glad you didn't change. I did slip on a denim jacket and change to flats, but I'm still wearing the short skirt. His hand lingers above my knee. I put my hand on his. Are you going to continue to tease me? Baby. Christian smiles. Why? Because I can. He grins, boyish as ever. Two can play that game. I whisper. His fingers move tantalizingly up my thigh. Bring it on, Mrs. Gray. His grin broadens. I pick up his hand and put it back on his knee. Well, you can keep your hands to yourself. He smirks. As you wish, Mrs. Gray. Damn it. This game is going to backfire on me. Christian turns into the driveway of our new house. He stops at the keypad and punches in a number, and the ornate white metal gates swing open. We roar up the tree-lined lane under leaves that are a blend of green, yellow, and burnished copper. The tall grass in the meadow is turning gold, but there are still a few yellow wildflowers dotted among the grass. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, and the salty tang of the sound is mixed with the scent of the coming fall in the air. This is such a tranquil and beautiful place. And to think, we're going to make our home here. The lane curves around, and our house comes into view. Several large trucks, sides emblazoned with gray construction, are parked out front. The house is decked in scaffolding, and several workmen in hard hats are busy on the roof. Christian pulls up outside the portico and switches off the engine. I can sense his excitement. Let's go find Elliot. Is he here? I hope so. I'm paying him enough. I snort, and Christian grins as we get out of the car. Yo! Bro! Elliot shouts from somewhere. We both glance around. Up here! He's on the roof, waving down at us and beaming from ear to ear. About time I saw you here. Stay where you are. I'll be right down. I glance at Christian, who shrugs. A few minutes later, Elliot appears at the front door. Hey, bro. He shakes Christian's hand. And how are you, little lady? He picks me up and swings me around. Better, thanks. I giggle breathlessly, my ribs protesting. Christian frowns at him, but Elliot ignores him. Let's head over to the site office. You'll need one of these. He taps his hard hat. The house is a shell. The floors are covered in a hard fibrous material that looks like burlap. Some of the original walls have disappeared and new ones have taken their place. Elliot leads us through, explaining what's happening, while men, and a few women, work everywhere around us. I'm relieved to see the stone staircase, with its intricate iron balustrade, is still in place and draped completely in white dust sheets. In the main living area, the back wall has been removed to make way for Gia's glass wall, and work is beginning on the terrace. In spite of the mess, the view is still stunning. The new work is sympathetic and in keeping with the old world charm of the house. Gia is done well. Elliot patiently explains the processes and gives us a rough time frame for each. He's hoping we can be in by Christmas, although Christian thinks this is optimistic. Holy cow! Christmas overlooking the sound. I can't wait. A bubble of excitement blooms inside me. I have visions of us trimming an enormous tree, while a copper-haired little boy looks on in wonder. Elliot finishes our tour in the kitchen. I'll leave you two to roam. Be careful, this is a building site. Sure. Thanks, Elliot. Christian murmurs, taking my hand. Happy? He asks once Elliot has left us alone. I am gazing at this empty shell of a room and wondering where I will hang the pepper pictures that we bought in France. Very. I love it. You? Ditto. He grins. Good. I was thinking of the pepper pictures in here. Christian nods. I want to put up Jose's portraits of you in this house. You need to decide where they should go. I blush. Somewhere I won't see them often? Don't be like that. He scolds me, brushing his thumb across my bottom lip. They're my favorite pictures. I love the one in my office. I have no idea why, I murmur, and kiss the pad of his thumb. Worse things to do than look at your beautiful smiling face all day. Hungry? He asks. Hungry for what? I whisper. He smirks, his eyes darkening. Hope and desire unfurl in my veins. Food, Mrs. Gray. And he plants a swift kiss on my lips. I give him my faux pout and sigh. Yes, these days I'm always hungry. The three of us can have a picnic. 3 of us? Is someone joining us? Christian cocks his head to one side. In about 7 or 8 months. Oh, blip. I grin goofily at him. I thought you might like to eat al fresco. In the meadow? I ask. He nods. Sure. I grin. This will be a great place to raise a family. He murmurs, gazing down at me. Family? More than one? Dare I mention this now? He spreads his fingers over my belly. Holy shit. I hold my breath and place my hand over his. It's hard to believe, he whispers, and for the first time I hear wonder in his voice. I know. Oh, here. I have evidence. A picture. You do? Baby's first smile? I pull out the ultrasound of Blip from my wallet. See? Christian examines it closely, staring for several seconds. Oh, Blip. Yeah, I see. He sounds distracted, awed. Your child. I whisper, our child. He counters, first of many. Many? Christian's eyes widen with alarm. At least two. Two? He tests the word. Can we just take this one child at a time? Grin. Sure. We head back outside into the warm fall afternoon. When are you going to tell your folks? Christian asks. Soon, I murmur. I thought about telling Ray this morning, but Mr. Rodriguez was there. I shrug. Christian nods and opens the hood of the RA. Inside are a wicker picnic basket and the tartan blanket we bought in London. Come, he says, taking the basket and blanket in one hand and holding the other out to me. Together, we walk into the meadow. Sure, Ross. Go for it. Christian hangs up. That's the third call he's taken during our picnic. He's kicked off his shoes and socks and is watching me, arms on his raised knees. His jacket lies discarded on top of mine, as we're warm in the sun. I lie beside him, stretched out on the picnic blanket, both of us surrounded by tall golden and green grass, far from the noise of the house and hidden from the prying eyes of the construction workers. We are in our own colic haven. He feeds me another strawberry, and I chew and suck it gratefully, gazing at his darkening eyes. Tasty, he whispers. Very. Had enough? Of strawberries, yes. His eyes glitter dangerously, and he grins. Mrs. Jones packs a mighty fine picnic, he says. That she does, I whisper. Shifting suddenly, he lies down so his head is resting on my belly. He closes his eyes and seems content. I tangle my fingers in his hair. He sighs heavily, then scowls and checks the number on the screen of his buzzing BlackBerry. He rolls his eyes and takes the call. Welch, he snaps. He tenses, listens for a second or two, then suddenly bolts upright. 24/7. Thanks, he says through gritted teeth and hangs up. The change in his mood is instant. Gone is my teasing, flirtatious husband, replaced by a cold, calculating master of the universe. He narrows his eyes for a moment, then gives me a cool, chilling smile. A shiver runs down my back. He picks up his BlackBerry and presses a speed dial. Roz, how much stock do we own in Lincoln Timber? He kneels up. My scalp prickles. Oh no, what's this? So, consolidate the shares into GEH, then fire the board. Except the CEO. I don't give a fuck. I hear you, just do it. Thank you. Keep me informed. He hangs up and gazes at me impassively for a moment. Holy shit. Christian is mad. What's happened? Link, he murmurs. Link? Elena's ex? The same. He's the one who posted Hyde's bail. I gape at Christian in shock. His mouth is pressed in a hard line. Well, he'll look like an idiot, I murmur, dismayed. I mean, Hyde committed another crime while out on bail. Christian's eyes narrow and he smirks. Fair point well made, Mrs. Gray. What did you just do? I kneel, facing him. I fucked him over. Oh. That seems a little impulsive, I murmur. I'm an in-the-moment kind of guy. I'm aware of that. His eyes narrow and his lips thin. I've had this plan in my back pocket for a while, he says dryly. I frown. Oh? He pauses, seeming to weigh something in his mind, then takes a deep breath. Several years back, when I was 21, Link beat his wife to a pulp. He broke her jaw, her left arm, and 4 of her ribs because she was fucking me. His eyes harden, and now I learn he posted bail for a man who tried to kill me, kidnapped my sister, and fractured my wife's skull. I've had enough. I think it's payback time. I blanch. Holy shit. Fair point well made, Mr. Gray, I whisper. Anna, this is what I do. I'm not usually motivated by revenge, but I cannot let him get away with this. What he did to Elena, well, she should have pressed charges, but she didn't. That was her prerogative. But he seriously crossed the line with Hyde. Lynx made this personal by going after my family. I'm going to crush him, break up his company right under his nose, and sell the pieces to the highest bidder. I am going to bankrupt him. Oh. Besides, Christian smirks. We'll make good money out of the deal. I stare into blazing gray eyes that soften suddenly. I didn't mean to frighten you, he whispers. You didn't, I lie. He arches a brow, amused. You just took me by surprise, I whisper, then swallow. Christian is really quite scary sometimes. He brushes his lips against mine. I will do anything to keep you safe. Keep my family safe. Keep this little one safe. He murmurs, and splays his hand out over my belly in a gentle caress. Oh, I stop breathing. Christian gazes down at me, his eyes darkening. His lips part as he inhales, and, in a deliberate move, the tips of his fingers brush against my sex. Holy shit. Desire detonates like an incendiary device, igniting my bloodstream. I grasp his head, my fingers weaving into his hair, and tug hard so my lips find his. He gasps, surprised by my assault, giving my tongue free passage into his mouth. He groans and kisses me back, his lips and tongue hungry for mine. And for a moment, we consume each other, lost in tongues and lips and breaths and sweet, sweet sensation as we rediscover each other. Oh, I want this man. It's been too long. I want him here, now, in the open air, in our meadow. Anna, he breathes, entranced, and his hand skims over my backside to the hem of my skirt. I scramble to unbutton his shirt, all fingers and thumbs. Whoa, Anna, stop. He pulls back, his jaw clenched, and grabs my hands. No! My teeth clamp gently around his lower lip, and I tug. No, I murmur again, gazing at him. I release him. I want you. He inhales sharply. He's torn, his indecision writ large in his luminous gray eyes. Please, I need you. Every pore of my being is begging. This is what we do. He groans in defeat as his mouth finds mine, molding my lips to his. One hand cradles my head while the other skims down my body to my waist, and he eases me onto my back and stretches out beside me, never breaking contact with my mouth. He pulls back, hovering over me and gazing down. You are so beautiful, Mrs. Gray. I caress his lovely face. So are you, Mr. Gray, inside and out. He frowns, and my fingers trace the furrow in his brow. Don't frown. You are to me, even when you're angry, I whisper. He groans once more, and his mouth captures mine, pushing me into the soft grass beneath the blanket. I've missed you, he whispers, and his teeth graze my jaw. My heart soars. I've missed you too. Oh, Christian. I fist one hand in his hair and clutch his shoulder with the other. His lips move to my throat, leaving tender kisses in their wake, and his fingers follow, deftly undoing each button of my blouse. Tugging my blouse apart, he kisses the soft swell of my breasts. He murmurs appreciatively, low in his throat, and the sound echoes through my body to my deep, dark places. Your body's changing, he whispers. His thumb teases my nipple until it's erect and straining against my bra. I like, he adds. I watch his tongue taste and trace the line between bra and my breast, tantalizing and teasing me. Taking my bra cup delicately between his teeth, he pulls it down, freeing my breast and nuzzling my nipple with his nose in the process. It puckers at his touch and from the chill of the gentle fall breeze. His lips close around me, and he sucks long and hard. Ah! I groan, inhaling sharply, then wincing as pain radiates outward from my bruised ribs. Anna! Christian exclaims, and glares down at me, concern etched on his face. This is what I'm talking about, he admonishes. Your lack of self-preservation. I don't want to hurt you. No, don't stop, I whimper. He stares at me, warring with himself. Please. Here. Abruptly, he moves, and I'm sitting astride him, my short skirt now bunched up around my hips. His hands glide over the tops of my thigh highs. There, that's better. And I can enjoy the view. He reaches up and hooks his long index finger into my other bra cup, bringing that breast too. He grasps both of my breasts, and I throw my head back, pushing them into his welcome, expert hands. He teases me, tugging and rolling my nipples until I cry out, then sits up so we're nose to nose, his greedy gray eyes on mine. He kisses me, his fingers still teasing me. I scramble for his shirt, undoing the first 2 buttons. And it's like sensory overload. I want to be kissing him everywhere, undressing him, making love with him all at once. Hey. He gently grasps my head and pulls back, eyes dark and full of sensual promise. There's no rush. Take it slow. I want to savor you. Christian, it's been so long. I'm panting. Slow, he whispers, and it's a command. He kisses the right corner of my mouth. Slow. He kisses the left corner. Slow, baby. He tugs my bottom lip with his teeth. Let's take this slow. He unfurls his fingers in my hair, keeping me in place as his tongue invades my mouth, seeking, tasting, calming, inflaming. Oh, my man can kiss. I caress his face, my fingers moving tentatively down to his chin and then to his throat, and I start again on the buttons of his shirt, taking my time as he continues to kiss me. Slowly, I pull his shirt apart, my fingers trailing over his clavicles, feeling their way across his warm, silky skin. I push him gently back until he's lying beneath me. Sitting up, I gaze down at him, aware that I'm squirming against his growing erection. I trace my fingers across his lips to his jaw, then down his neck and over his Adam's apple to that little dip at the base of his throat. My beautiful man. I lean down, and my kisses follow the tips of my fingers. My teeth graze his jaw and kiss his throat. He closes his eyes. He groans and tilts his head back, giving me easier access to the base of his throat, his mouth slack and open in silent veneration. Christian lost and aroused is just so exhilarating and so arousing to me. My tongue trails down his sternum, twirling through his chest hair. He tastes so good. He smells so good. Intoxicating. I kiss first one, then 2 of his small round spars, and he grasps my hips, so my fingers halt on his chest as I gaze down at him. His breathing is harsh. You want this? Here. He breathes, his eyes hooded with a heady combination of love and lust. Yes, I murmur, and my lips and tongue graze across his chest to his nipple. I pull and roll it gently with my teeth. Oh, Anna, he whispers, and, circling my waist, lifts me, tugging at his button and fly so he springs free. He sits me down again, and I push against him, delighting in the feel of him hot and hard beneath me. He runs his hands up my thighs, pausing where my thigh-highs and my flesh bends. Hands run small, using circles at the tops of my thighs, so that the tips of thumbs touch me. Touch me where I want to be touched. I gasp. I hope you're attached. underwear. He murmurs, his eyes wild and bright. His fingers trace the elastic along my belly and then slide inside, teasing me, before grabbing my panties tightly and pushing his thumbs through the delicate material. My panties disintegrate. His hands splay out on my thighs and his thumbs brush against my sex once more. He flexes his hips so his erection rubs against me. I can feel how wet you are. His voice is tinged with carnal appreciation, and he suddenly sits up, his arm around my waist again, so we're nose to nose. He rubs his nose against mine. We're going to take this slow, Mrs. Gray. I want to feel all of you. He lifts me, and with exquisite, frustrating, slow ease, lowers me onto him. I feel each blessed inch of him fill me. Ah! I moan incoherently as I reach out to clasp his arms. I try to lift myself off him for some welcome friction, but he holds me in place. All of me, he whispers, and tilts his pelvis, pushing himself into me all the way. I throw my head back and let out a strangled cry of pure pleasure. Let me hear you, he murmurs. No, don't move, just feel. I open my eyes, my mouth frozen in a silent ah, and he's gazing at me, hooded, licentious gray eyes into dazed blue. He shifts, rolling his hips, but holds me in place. I groan. His lips are at my throat, kissing me. This is my favorite place, buried in you. He murmurs against my skin. Please, move, I plead. Slow, Mrs. Gray. He flexes his hips again and pleasure radiates through me. I cup his face and kiss him, consuming him. Love me, please, Christian. His teeth skim my jaw up to my ear. Go, he whispers, and he lifts me up and down. My inner goddess is unleashed, and I push him down on the ground and start to move, savoring the feeling of him inside me, riding him hard. With his hands around my waist, he matches my rhythm. I have missed this, the heady feeling of him beneath me, inside me, the sun on my back, the sweet smell of fall in the air, the gentle autumnal breeze. It's a heady fusion of senses, touch, taste, smell, and the sight of my beloved husband beneath me. Oh, Anna, he groans, eyes closed, head back, mouth open. Ah, I love this. And inside, I'm building, climbing, higher. Christian's hands move to my thighs, and delicately his thumbs press at their apex, and I explode around him, over and over and over and over, and I collapse, sprawled on his chest as he cries out in turn, letting go and calling out my name with love and joy. He cuddles me against his chest, cradling my head. Closing my eyes, I savor the feel of his arms around me. My hand is on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart as it slows and calms. I kiss and nuzzle him, and marvel briefly that not long ago, he would not have let me do this. Better, he whispers. I raise my head. He's grinning broadly. Much. You? My answering grin reflects his. I've missed you, Mrs. Gray. He's serious for a moment. Me too. No more heroics, eh? No, I promise. You should always talk to me, he whispers. Back at you, Gray. He smirks. Fair point, well made. I'll try. He kisses my hair. I think we're going to be happy here, I whisper, closing my eyes again. Yep. You, me, and Lip. How do you feel, incidentally? Fine? Relaxed? Happy? Good. You? Yeah, all those things, he murmurs. I look up at him, trying to gauge his expression. What? He asks. You know, you're very bossy when we have sex. Are you complaining? No, I'm just wondering. You said you missed it. He stills, gazing at me. Sometimes. He whispers. Oh. Well, we'll have to see what we can do about that, I murmur, and kiss him lightly on his lips, curling around him like a vine. Images of us together, in the playroom, the talus, the table, on the cross, shelved to the bed. I love his kinky fuckery. Our kinky fuckery. Yes, I can do that stuff. I can do that for him, with him. I can do that for me. My skin tingles as I remember the riding crop. I like to play too, I murmur, and glancing up, I'm treated to his shy smile. You know, I'd really like to test your limits, he whispers. My limits for what? Leisure. Oh, I think I'd like that. Well, maybe when we get home, he whispers, leaving that promise hanging between us. I nuzzle him once more. I love him so. It's been 2 days since our picnic. 2 days since the promise of, well, maybe when we get home, was made. Christian is still treating me like I'm made of glass. He still won't let me go to work, so I have been working from home. I put the stack of query letters I've been reading aside on my desk and sigh. Christian and I haven't been back in the playroom since I safe-worded, and he said he misses it. Well, so do I, especially now that he wants to explore my limits. I flush, thinking what that could possibly entail. I glance at the billiards table. Yes, I can't wait to explore those. My thoughts are interrupted by soft, lyrical music that fills the apartment. Christian is playing the piano, not one of his usual laments, but a sweet melody, a hopeful melody, one that I recognize but have never heard him play. I tiptoe to the archway of the great room and watch Christian at the piano. It's dusk. The sky is an opulent pink, and the light is reflected off his burnished copper hair. He looks his beautiful, breathtaking self, concentrating as he plays, unaware of my presence. He's been so forthcoming over the last few days, so attentive, offering small insights into his day, his thoughts, his plans. It's as if he's breached a dam and started talking. I know he'll come to check on me in a few minutes, and it gives me an idea. Excited, I steal away, hoping that he still hasn't noticed me, and race to our room, stripping off my clothes as I go, until I'm wearing nothing but pale blue lace panties. I find a pale blue camisole, and slip into it quickly. It will hide my bruise. Diving into the closet, I pull out Christian's faded jeans, his playroom jeans, my favorite jeans, from the drawer. From my bedside table, I pick up my BlackBerry, fold the jeans neatly, and kneel by the bedroom door. The door is ajar, and I can hear the strains of another piece, one I don't know, but it's another hopeful tune. It's lovely. Quickly, I type an email. From Anastasia Gray. Subject, my husband's pleasure. Date, September 21st, 2011, 20:45. To Christian Gray. Sir, I await your instructions. Yours always, Mrs. G. X. I press send. A few moments later, the music stops abruptly. My heart lurches and starts pounding. I wait and wait, and eventually my BlackBerry buzzes. From Christian Gray. Subject, my husband's pleasure. Love this title, baby. Date, September 21st, 2011, 20:48. To Anastasia Gray. Mrs. G. I'm intrigued. I'll come find you. Be ready. Christian Gray, Anticipative CEO, Gray Enterprises Holdings, Inc. Be ready. My heart starts to pound and I begin to count. 37 seconds later, the door opens. I'm looking down at his bare feet as they pause on the threshold. He says nothing. For ages, he says nothing. Oh shit. I resist the urge to look up at him and keep my eyes downcast. Finally, he reaches down and picks up his jeans. He stays silent but heads into the walk-in closet while I remain stock still. Oh my. This is it. My heart is thundering, and I relish the rush of adrenaline that spikes through my body. I squirm as my excitement builds. What will he do to me? A few moments later, he's back, wearing the jeans. So, you want to play? He murmurs. Yes. He says nothing, and I risk a quick glance. Up his jeans, his denim-clad thighs, the soft bulge at his fly, the open button at the waist, his happy trail, his navel, his chiseled abdomen, his chest hair, his gray eyes blazing, and his head cocked to one side. He's arching an eyebrow. Oh, shit. Yes, what? He whispers. Oh. Yes, sir. His eyes soften. Good girl. He murmurs, and he caresses my head. I think we'd better get you upstairs now. He adds. My insides liquefy, and my belly clenches in that delicious way. He takes my hand and I follow him through the apartment and up the stairs. Outside the playroom door, he halts and bends and kisses me gently before grasping my hair hard. You know, you're topping from the bottom, he murmurs against my lips. What? I don't understand what he's talking about. Don't worry. I'll live with it, he whispers, amused, and he runs his nose along my jaw and gently bites my ear. Once inside, kneel, like I've shown you. Yes, sir. He gazes down at me, eyes shining with love, wonder, and wicked thoughts. Geez, life is never going to be boring with Christian, and I'm in this for the long haul. I love this man, my husband, my lover, father of my child, my sometimes dominant, my 50 Shades. Epilogue. The Big House, May 2014. I lie on our tartan picnic blanket and gaze up at the clear, blue summer sky, my view framed by meadow flowers and tall green grasses. The heat of the afternoon summer sun warms my skin, my bones, and my belly, and I relax, my body turning to jello. This is comfortable. Hell no, this is wonderful. I savor the moment, a moment of peace, a moment of pure and utter contentment. I should feel guilty for feeling this joy, this completeness, but I don't. Life right here, right now, is good. And I've learned to appreciate it and live in the moment like my husband. I smile and squirm as my mind drifts to the delicious memory of last night at our home in Escala. The strands of the flogger skim across my swollen belly at an aching, languorous pace. Have you had enough yet, Anna? Christian whispers in my ear. Oh, please, I beg, pulling on the restraints above my head as I stand blindfolded and tethered to the grid in the playroom. The flogger's sweet sting bites into my behind. Please, what? I gasp. Please, sir. Christian places his hand over my wringing skin and rubs gently. There. His words are soft. His hand moves south and around, and his fingers slide inside me. I groan. Mrs. Gray. He breathes, and his teeth pull on my earlobe. You're so ready. His fingers slide in and out of me, hitting that spot. That sweet, sweet spot again. The flogger clatters onto the floor and his hand moves over my belly and up to my breasts. I tense. They are sensitive. Hush, Christian says, cupping one, and he gently brushes his thumb over my nipple. Ah! His fingers are gentle and enticing, and pleasure spirals out from my breast, down, down, deep down. I tilt my head back, pushing my nipple into his palm, and moan once more. I like to hear you, Christian whispers. His erection is at my hip, the buttons of his fly pressing into my flesh as his fingers continue their relentless assault. In, out, keeping a rhythm. Shall I make you come like this? He asks. No. His fingers stop moving inside me. Really, Mrs. Gray? Is it up to you? His fingers tighten around my nipple. No, sir. That's better. Ah, please, I beg. What do you want, Anastasia? You, always. He inhales sharply. All of you, I add, breathless. He eases his fingers out of me, pulls me around to face him, and removes the blindfold. I blink up into darkening gray eyes that burn into mine. His index fingers trace my bottom lip, and he pushes his index and middle fingers into my mouth, letting me taste the salty tang of my arousal. Suck, he whispers. I swirl my tongue around and between his fingers. Even I taste good on his fingers. His hands skim up my arms to the cuffs above my head, and he unclips them, freeing me. Turning me around so I'm facing the wall, he tugs on my braid, pulling me into his arms. He angles my head to one side and skims his lips up my throat to my ear while holding me flush against him. I want in your mouth. His voice is soft and seductive. My body, ripe and ready, clenches deep inside. The pleasure is sweet and sharp. I moan. Turning to face him, I pull his head down to mine and kiss him hard, my tongue invading his mouth, tasting and savoring him. He groans, places his hands on my behind and tugs me against him, but only my pregnant belly touches him. I bite his jaw and trail kisses down his throat and run my fingers down to his jeans. He tilts his head back, exposing more of his throat to me, and I run my tongue down to his chest and through his chest hair. I tug the waistband of his jeans, the buttons popping, and he grasps my shoulders as I sink to my knees in front of him. As I gaze up at him through my lashes, he stares down at me. His eyes are dark, his lips parted, and he inhales deeply when I free him and ensnare him with my mouth. I love doing this to Christian, watching him come apart, hearing his breath hitch, and the soft moans he makes deep in his throat. I close my eyes and suck hard, pressing down on him, relishing his taste and his breathless gasp. He grasps my head, stilling me, and I sheathe my teeth with my lips and push him deeper into my mouth. Open your eyes and look at me, he orders, his voice low. Blazing eyes meet mine and he flexes his hips, filling my mouth to the back of my throat, then withdrawing quickly. He pushes into me again and I reach up to grab him. He stops and holds me in place. Don't touch or I'll cuff you again. I just want your mouth. He growls. Oh my, like that, is it? I put my hands behind my back and gaze up at him innocently with my mouth full. Good girl, he says, smirking down at me, his voice hoarse. He eases back and, holding me gently but firmly, he pushes into me again. You have such a fuckable mouth, Mrs. Gray. He closes his eyes and eases into my mouth as I squeeze him between my lips, run again and again and again, the air hissing between his teeth, me into his arms and moved over to the poster. Gently, he lays me down so that my behind is just on the edge of the bed. Wrap your legs around my waist, he orders. Toward me. He leans down, hands on either side of head, and still section. Oh God, Christian, yes, yes, please. I tighten my legs around him and push against him. He groans. I clasp his arms and he flexes. He groans and starts to move. Yes! I gasp, tightening my hold on him as I start to build. He moans, grinding into me with renewed determination. And I'm close. Oh, please, don't stop. Come on and on and on. I call out his name and Christian stills, groaning loudly as he climaxes inside me. Anna, he cries. Christian lies beside me, his hand caressing my belly, his long fingers splayed out wide. How's my daughter? She's dancing. I laugh. Dancing? Oh yes, wow. Feel her. He grins as Blip 2 somersaults inside me. I think she likes sex already.